Alrighty. Hello, hello. Salamandius, a happy new year to you. Your New Year's was very enjoyable. I got rid of some of the decorations on my stream, but I think the lights around the where the gameplay is, I think it's pretty aesthetic. I'm gonna leave them for now. Just to the end of winter. A death bat? Where's the death bat? Oh god. Hold on, let me look. That is a fucking death bat. What the fuck? I actually didn't notice that before. What the hell? I see. Whoever made this this background, putting in the Avenged Sevenfold Easter egg. Good taste. Bad. Improve. Let's see if I can watch this. It is save data. Now that screen, that background is not custom made. It's one of the stock ones you can use. I actually didn't realize it was on there. Good eye. Love that band. Yeah, you're right. So do I. I actually I think that background, I think it's a Monster Hunter background. It's supposed to be a monster. It's like off-brand Temu, legally distinct Monster Hunter intro screen and outro screen. I like the bonfire aesthetic though. Get. Alright, so I did last time I streamed this last year was just full of side missions. It was like almost entirely all side missions, a lot of running around. I think there might be a small surge of more side missions after these story beats, I think. I'm hoping to actually finish this area tonight. So we are at Yellow Village, otherwise known as the Hot Springs Village. Tita is fixing their pump. And we were told, Joshua and Estelle were told that somebody went missing. Somebody went for a walk. And they may be in trouble. As this path over here is infested with monsters.
Be cautious.
I actually was listening to Avenged Sevenfold a few nights ago. I had Waking the Fallen on, because Waking the Fallen is their best album. We don't even start looking. The Plains Road covers a pretty wide area. Well, since they said she was looking for a place with nice scenery, there's a good chance she wandered off the main path. Oh, great. More trouble. Whatever. Let's just hurry up and find her so we can bring her back. And going forward, it is the new year, and I haven't forgot Salamandius. I am looking into getting a proper webcam. I can actually use my phone for streaming my desk, but I've also been looking around at Gundam models. I'd like to get a tall geese. I found a place I can get I think it's a high grade tall geese for okay. It was either high grade or master grade. It was an okay price though. Is the main thing. Because I am a wing baby. I got into Gundam through Gundam Wing. I was on air at the time when I was very small. And Zex was the coolest motherfucker around. And of course he piloted tall geese. Okay, now if I remember right, I can actually hand in the sneakers. I don't remember overtime though, and this one I don't think I can do yet. I think I have to continue through the game a bit more before I get there. Light Album Nightmare. Yeah, okay, yeah, I agree with that. Honorable mention City of Evil. City of Evil is actually what got me into Avenged Sevenfold initially. That was the first Avenged Sevenfold album I bought.
No! Somebody help me!
I must have been around 13-ish when I first listened to them. Did you hear that? She must be close.
Oh, wait,
think I know who that is. Wait, is she someone we know by the sound of it? Either way, we need to hurry. Grr. It's a lot of angry chihuahuas.
Doggies? Why don't we just talk this out?
Bat Country is a song everyone knew before Afterlife and Nightmare. Yeah. I love Bat Country. Bat Country and I think it was Guitar Hero 2 had Beast and the Harlot on it. I think that might have been like when I first heard them, but at the time I didn't know what it was. And then like a few years later when I actually bought City of Evils and I heard it on that, I was like, oh, that's what it's from.
I probably don't taste very good, you know?
Or Dorothy.
I mean, I sleep over 12 hours a day and eat all my greens, so my skin's silky smooth.
Damn, I wish I could sleep 12 hours a day.
Wait, do I actually taste good?
I mean, I could. I don't have the time to sleep 12 hours a day.
Ah, no, please! I still haven't gone to an all-you-can-eat buffet yet!
Whatcha? Hiya!
You're...
Just as I thought. You're safe now, Dorothy. Don't worry.
Who are you again?
Hey, Dorothy. Dorothy. The best character in shows. Seriously? Estelle and Joshua from the Bracer Guild.
I'm just kidding. I wasn't expecting to run into you guys here.
You know, I'm starting to regret this rescue mission all of a sudden. Estelle, look out! Here get the dogs. Oh, that's a lot of Zero Cast. God damn. Alright. Well then. Let's go ahead and
I'll get you all.
light him up.
Fire!
All right,
And...
I can take them all.
130 versus... What's he at? I can see. 130 versus... Okay, there, it's all 130. I might be able to wipe them with Joshua. Maybe? Zero Cast. Oh, Joshua has no limit break. Okay. Close enough. I might have just gotten Dorothy killed. I hope I haven't. Just gonna reposition and leave her wide open. We're good, we're good. Oh.
I'm so glad you two are here. Oh, I've got to take a photo of this great experience.
Oh, she blinded.
You're taking one
Perfect.
now? Man, you're a pro.
That doesn't make this any less dangerous. Let's stay cautious. I'll change the tide of battle. I'm going all out. I'll get you all.
Going all out. Alright, so I want to lock up for sure.
Yeah! I'll be your opponent.
Nice. Alright.
I'll get you all.
Oh.
Fire!
There's not an interrupt.
It flinched.
Beautiful burst.
Let's do this. It's happening. Faster.
You're inching closer and closer
Look.
to the end here. I'm pretty sure after this little area, this little village here. Also, hello, Sparksy. You're just in time. I'm pretty sure after this little village here is when the plot, the setup for the finale starts getting
I'll get
really.
you all.
They start going really hard for it. Ooh, critical.
I won't let you. Fire!
Anything beyond now
You're mine.
is gonna be heavy, hefty. Spoilers territory. Get up already and watch you play all day with on
Leave
sale.
it to me.
For $5 a year, you're committed. That's right. I'm actually, as well, the other thing to note too is that the sequel comes out in September. What you might do is you might wait for the summer sale, play through it then, so it's fresh in your mind for the sequel for chapter 2, for a second chapter. Right? I should probably heal Estelle. She might be dead. I'm gonna be safe. Stealth.
You're a lifesaver. So cute.
They have a zero cast, which is fine. Dorothy is actually the most busted NPC in this game because she inflicts blind with a huge chance. Her camera's so good. If you ever one that you can't control, just blinding enemies over and over. As you can see, very strong. You keep missing.
I'll be your opponent.
Yeah, play this during summer
I'll get you
when the
all.
second game is about to come out. Because the first, Chosen Sky first chapter and second chapter are like two halves of one very long game. One very big, long game.
Let us begin.
Oh man, I forget.
I can take them all.
There's zero cast. Is this bigger? This is bigger. There we go.
You're mine.
Nope.
Fire. Stun.
Burst.
Do this.
I'm gonna hold his limit break for another
I
fight.
love that look.
Just not to build it up all the way. Another blind Dorothy OP. Oh damn, I got a fucking. I got a crit, but that's fine. There we go.
Let us begin. I won't let you.
Bonus points if you don't use sleep. Sleep is always busted too, yeah. There's not a lot of ways to inflict sleep in first chapter though.
Healing. Let us begin.
Confused though. Confused is busted. Well, Confused used to be busted. It's not nearly as strong in the remake as I was hoping, but that's fine. Stupid dog.
Here we go.
Fire.
There's a time on buff debuff plasma good for the mandatory goddamn limits. Yeah. This game, I would say buffs, debuffs are mandatory. There are some fights that, otherwise you're just not gonna be able to beat certain fights. Especially some of the side quest boss fights.
Leave it to me.
The hardest boss fight I haven't gotten to yet, but the other hard boss fight was the Capital Family. The 3 Sky Pirates. That was fucking annoying, and if you don't use debuffs or buffs, you're not gonna win that fight. Unless you switch to an easier difficulty, which I'm not gonna do,
Here
because
goes. Say cheese.
I like to feel good about myself. Be a good warlock, yeah.
My turn.
You just beat him to death now.
Fire. It flinched.
Alright. That's a lot of XP. You saved the Dorothy. I think that's the last of them. Estelle, did you notice too? Yeah, they're the same monsters that attacked the Crony passport checkpoint. But what are they doing out here?
Wow, that was amazing. I mean, of course you are. You're brazers. It's so good to see you again, Estelle and Joshua. Never thought I'd run into you here, of all places. Oh, is this what they call a fateful encounter?
Depends what kind of fate you're talking about. So, Dorothy, are you staying at the inn in Elmo?
I am. Huh? How do you know that?
It's glasses again, yeah. Watch out for the anime characters with glasses that shine or glint. Excuse me if I have some tea. They explained that the innkeeper had asked them to find and ensure the safety of a guest.
Oh, I see. That must have been tough for you.
Why are you acting like this isn't your fault? What are you even doing out here anyway?
Tisk, tisk. You don't know? You really should work on your intuition, Estelle.
What?
The answer is to take photos that can be used for the next special article. Oh, and it was assigned by Niall.
I see. So you came here for work. But did you really have to hunt for material all the way out here? I swear. Dealing with you is way more exhausting than fighting monsters.
Are you okay, Estelle? Pain, pain, go away.
Thank you, Dorothy. Now, who do you think is the source of my pain? Ah, this might be the first time seeing Estelle this riled up by someone. Hey, Estelle, how about we go head back to Elmo? Tina might be done with the repairs by now. Yeah, I guess. Okay, Dorothy, you're coming back with us.
Aw, but I want to take more photos.
You're coming back with us.
Estelle, you're scaring me.
Poor Dorothy.
I got tons of great shots today. Yeah,
Get the hell out of
sure.
here.
Wait. Whoa.
Amazing. It's scenery. It feels so expressive.
Dorothy is
Isn't it
pissing off
cute?
every monster
Check
she
this one
runs
out.
past.
So sexy.
Sexy.
Don't know what you mean by that. You really are a born genius.
Dorothy makes her photos of scenery very, sensual, intimate. I didn't know you could do that with scenery. Ah. Look, there's steam coming out.
Wow, it really is.
Ooh. The hot springs are fixed. Looks like Tita's done with the repairs.
I can finally soak in the hot springs. I have no regrets in life now.
You're so dramatic. Do you like hot springs that much, Dorothy?
Absolutely. Nothing beats a nice bottle of fruit milk after a hot bath, you know?
Fruit milk. That sounds delicious.
Anyway, I'm going straight to the hot springs now.
And there she goes.
Oh, one more thing. Stell, Joshua, thanks a lot for earlier. You really saved my life back there.
Now is when she says thanks? Unbelievable. Forget not being on the same page. That girl's reading a whole nother book. Haha, it was very Dorothy, wasn't it? Anyway, shall we head to the pump shed? Yeah, sure. Tina might still be there, I guess. Go pick up our heavily armed child. There she is. Roll, as Zarxit calls her. Hey, Tina, you finished the repairs, right? Oh, Mrs. Stell, Mr. Joshua. Yes, I just finished. I have checked if the water is flowing properly yet. Or sorry, I haven't checked if the water is flowing properly yet. Don't worry, we saw steam rising from the well in the square. Did you figure out why it broke down? Well, the pump didn't have any issues, but the crankshaft that turns the screw had corroded and snapped. I replaced it with another that is rust resistant, so it should be fine now. Wow, good job. Then why don't we head back to the inn and let Miss Mao know? Okay. Okay. What's this boy doing? Lucky. I heard there's a hot spring source up on the mountain. I want to go check it out, but the adults say I'm not allowed. No children in the mountains or the hot springs.
Wow, it's steaming.
All right, Miss Mao. Actually, there's something. What can I buy here?
What do we need?
Fruit milk.
So much
Recover
here.
400 mana. God damn. All right. Now we're talking.
I'll pick this.
Special eggnog. Heal 2200. Oh, this just removes all debuffs. This is very good. Like 5 of those.
I made up my mind.
Monster fish sashimi. 2600 HP. Strength defense up. Nice. Yes, yes. I'll take
pick
those.
this.
Silver smelt tempura. Speed up for 4 turns. This is okay. Up by 1.
I got it.
1250 HP defense up. Again, it's alright. By 1.
It's decided.
1600 cure freeze, cure mute. I already have some of those. All crested small fish. Defense ADF up 2 times. Ah.
I made
better.
up my mind.
All veggie hot pot. Big heals, so party heals and CP up 40. Nice. I'll buy some of those too.
I'll pick you.
Thanks.
Right. Miss Mao. Thank you so much, Tita. I see you got the pump up and running. Hehe. You're always taking care of me, so this is the least I can do. Oh, look at you, talking like a proper little adult. And thanks for your hard work, Bracer Kids. I hear you know that girl. You could say that. Did something happen? We had a small bracer job. You kids have been a big help today. As a thank you, why don't you stay here tonight and rest? Wait, for real? Grandma. You didn't tell Grandpa that we'd be staying overnight. Oh, don't fret. Russell just called me a few minutes ago. He said whatever he's doing will take until tomorrow, so y'all should stay the night. Grandpa said that? Wow, that old man's actually pretty considerate, huh? If that's the case, we might as well take you up on the offer. That's the spirit. No need to be shy. I prepared the user room on the second floor for you, so go ahead and leave your bags there. Dinner will take a little while, so feel free to enjoy the hot springs until then. You mean take a bath before dinner? Aren't baths something you take after dinner and before bed? Oh, nonsense. You know it's a hot spring, right? It's perfectly normal to soak as many times as you like, morning or night. It's normal to take a bath 3 times a day here. Oh, is it? I do like baths, but I think I might get lightheaded if I do that. Let's drop off our luggage and head on over. Let's just go up. Upstairs, upstairs. Go and give a quick save. Alright. Wow, what a nice room. It really is. The Eastern-style interior gives it a very unique feeling. Grandma Mao said she was born in the East. She moved to Liberal with her family when she was a little girl. Quite a few people in this village have Eastern roots like her, too. Oh, so that explains why Elmo has such a distinctive vibe. Ooh, I'm excited for the food now. I agree. But why don't we visit the hot springs before that, like Miss Mao recommended? Oh yeah. Let's go together, Tita. Okay. Alright, let's put our things down and head over right now. Okay, now that our annoying luggage is out of the way... Hold on, where is the hot spring? Oh, there's a separate building behind the inn just for the baths. They even have a huge open-air bath in the back. An open-air bath is an outdoor hot spring, right? Wow, that sounds fun. Alright, let's go.
Actually, I've never been to a hot spring before. I'm looking forward to it.
I suppose this way? No, it's
I've never gone with anyone
downstairs.
outside my family before either.
We've been through a lot today. Let's just relax there.
hot spring episode. But we don't have Shira. This sucks. Wow, it's so dark already. The Eastern-style garden has such a traditional elegance. Oh, it's Estelle and Joshua. She is steaming. Oh, Dorothy. Are you getting into the hot springs too? The baths here are amazing. They're so big and relaxing. I soaked for a little too long and got a bit dizzy. Wait, so you've been in the bath this whole time? Yep. Ah, it feels so good. Or it felt so good. Oh, and who's this little girl? I don't think we've met before. It's nice to meet you. My name is Tita. Hi, Tita. My name is Dorothy. I'm a photographer for a magazine based in the royal capital. You're a photographer? Wow, that's amazing. Oh, stop. Oh, hey, you're staying at this inn too, right? Want to have dinner together? Oh, that sounds great. Would you mind waiting for us to finish our baths? Sure, I'll sip on some fruit milk while I wait. See you later. A trail of steam following her.
It's calm and quiet.
You believe in hot springs. Hot to spring. This is... I'm assuming these are... This is the entrance to the baths. Yes, this one is to the women's bath and the other is to the men's. Oh, I see. There are different entrances for men and women. Of course there'd be. People gotta get changed and everything. Ahem. Well then, I'll see both of you in a few. Yep, later, Gator. Bye-bye. At least we're not gonna have a fucking weird-ass corpse party scene with the brother and the sister.
is my first time in a hot spring, and it's better than I ever expected. Now I understand why Dorothy was so obsessed.
I'm addicted to hot springs too. Grandpa's brought me here a lot, ever since I was little.
Really? Hey, what's that door over there?
Enjoy this cookie.
Oh, it goes to the open air bath that I mentioned earlier. It's huge. It's probably big enough to fit 10 people at once.
Wow, that's so cool. Ah, it feels like all my fatigue is just melting away.
You and Mr. Joshua are traveling on foot, right? Why don't you use airships?
For training, I guess? But it's also my dad's advice.
Mr. Cassius's advice?
Yeah, my dad had a student named Shara, and it was a piece of advice that he gave her. To walk around the place we're meant to protect, ourselves.
Wow, that's so cool.
Usually he's just goofing around, but he gets serious when he has to be. Where in the world did he wander off to?
Mrs. Stell.
Sorry, the mood got kind of heavy, huh? Well, we've got to focus on training, so I've got no time to sit around worrying. All I can do now is believe in him. Yep, that's it.
Believe.
What's the matter?
Oh no, it's nothing. I just remembered. I've been wanting to ask you something, Mrs. Stell.
Oh, do you? What is it? Don't be shy. Ask me anything.
Well, so... I was wondering if you and Mr. Joshua are married?
I'm sorry. I think I misheard you. You wanted to ask if Joshua and I are... what?
I like how they both got the idiot curl. That strand of hair that sticks straight up.
Are you two married?
What? What even gave you that idea?
Because you have the same family name. And you don't look alike to be siblings, so...
We don't look alike because we aren't actually related. And we have the same family name because my dad adopted Joshua.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I guess I misunderstood a little.
More like a huge mistake. First of all, Joshua and I are 16. Neither of us has ever even thought about getting married.
Right, of course. People don't get married that young, even if they like each other.
Okay, listen. Joshua and I aren't in a relationship or anything. We're just family. Family.
What? You're not?
Why are you reacting like that? Tita? Do we look like that kind of duo?
What do you mean, that kind of duo?
I mean, like a couple. Do we look all lovey-dovey and close and like that?
Oh, I never thought you were. But you two are always so natural together, and it feels like you two really understand each other, and...
Well, I mean, that might be partially true, but aren't family and really close friends like that too? Besides, Joshua and I have never had those kinds of feelings.
How can you say something so embarrassing with such a straight face? And if you need a shoulder to lean on, you'll always have mine.
We're having flashbacks in sepia.
But I can at least be an
Not
ear
the
to
sepia
listen.
flashbacks. Anything but the sepia flashbacks.
Yep.
The hand fetter! The hand fetter next to the fucking windmill!
Why am I so relieved right now? Why am I remembering that now? Wait, what? Did I actually do all that embarrassing stuff with him?
Maybe at the time it didn't seem to mean much, did it? At the time.
Mrs. Stell, your face is bright red.
Ah, it's nothing. Absolutely nothing. Oh, man. Hot springs are so warm and relaxing, aren't they? I can feel my blood circulation getting an upgrade. Oh, it's making me dizzy.
Okay.
Oh, right. There's an open air bath, isn't there? I'm starting to get too hot, so I'm just gonna head over there for a while.
Oh, sure. Oh, by the way, Miss Estelle, the open air bath is up.
Uh-oh.
An all gender bath.
That caught me off guard. My heart's pounding so fast. What's wrong with me lately? I've never thought of Joshua in that way, but... Yeah! Enough overthinking. This isn't like me at all. Ah, this is so good. The indoor bath was good and all, but this one is just on another level.
She's not even overthinking, she's just thinking. For Estelle, yeah, this is yeah. Even
It's
just
so
normal
big
thinking hurts her
and
head.
spacious, and I can stretch out my entire body and...
Just so you know, you're not allowed to swim here, okay?
Oh, please, I won't swim. Wait, what?
It's like Ricky when he has two thoughts at once, yeah. He's doing some of that brain circulating thing and brain starting to hurt. Or Ricky, I think that's because you're thinking.
Hi there, Estelle. I've been enjoying this bath for quite a while now. I've got to admit, this is a bit awkward. Anyway, the hot spring is really therapeutic, isn't it? It's great for healing wounds and really helps with deep fatigue. It's perfect for bracers, don't you think? So, could you please say something? You're making me feel really uncomfortable.
Watch out, Estelle. There's a half-naked Joshua near you. It's over. It's so over.
I thought something awful had happened when I heard that blood-curdling scream. Oh, what a fuss you made, young lady.
I'm sorry.
Listen here. This open-air bath is a mixed bath. There should have been a big sign in the changing room that clearly says so.
Oh.
You didn't read it at all, did you?
Besides, what's so embarrassing about someone seeing you naked? They even say, being seen makes you more beautiful.
Really?
Don't listen to her, Tita.
Just like Santorini where his brain will have more room in his head and thinks he'll stop from having another stroke.
And first of all, he did not see me naked.
Well, regardless, stop screaming and enjoy the bath together. The open-air bath is mixed-gendered, so families can get in together, you know? Now that that's settled, see you later.
Dude, Champion only 16. That's what I was saying. I was like, we should have had Shira here, man. Come on.
I'm so exhausted again. Oh, this is all your fault, Joshua!
Especially for the hot springs episode.
What? How? You were the one making it a huge scene. And it could have been avoided if you only read the sign in the changing room. This just proves how careless you are.
That's implying Estelle can read.
Shut up! Ugh, seriously, you're so not cute.
Yeah, whatever. Say whatever you want. It's not like I care if you think I'm cute or not.
What?
First of all, what's wrong with you? You didn't have to scream like that when you saw me. I never imagined you'd react like that.
That was because, you know, the timing was so... It's not like I didn't want to be in the same bath as you, okay?
Don't worry. You don't have to pretend. I'm getting out now, so you two can take your time.
Hello? Who said I'm pretending? You're such an idiot, Joshua.
Says the real idiot.
Ooh. I know you are, but what am I? They bicker like brother and sister.
Hey, look!
Maybe they do bicker like a married couple.
Even Tina's laughing at us now.
And that's my fault how? Sorry about that, Tita. I
God,
must have looked
relax.
so immature.
Oh no, I'm sorry for laughing at you. It's just. I got a little jealous.
Jealous?
Why is that?
I don't have any siblings, so I've never argued like that. Grandpa's so kind, so he almost never scolds me. And I can't spend a lot of time with my mom and dad.
Oh, right. You haven't seen them for years, huh?
You must really miss them.
Oh, not really. I have Grandpa with me. And everyone at the Central Factory is very kind and supportive. But I just feel a little jealous whenever I see you two getting along together. I guess this is what you call wanting what you can't have.
Tita.
I have an idea.
Huh?
Estelle?
I'll be your big sister, Tita. And that also means Joshua's your big brother.
What?
You always come up with the most random ideas.
What? You got a problem with that?
No, I just thought it's very like you, Estelle. I have no objections, as long as you're okay with it, Tita.
Oh, thank you, Miss Estelle and Mr. Joshua. I'm I'm so happy right now.
All right then, it's settled. Oh, that also means no more Miss or Mister from now on, okay? Little sisters don't talk to their big sister and brother like that.
That's right. And I hope you'll talk to us casually, just like you do with your grandfather.
Oh, okay. Stop saying Miss and Mr. and talk casually. Estelle and Joshua. Was that okay?
Yup, it was perfect.
We're happy to be your big brother and sister.
Now we got another one.
They're so late. I drank too much fruit milk. My tummy's all sloshy.
Damn, that's a lot of milk. After that, the three of them cheered up the sulking Dorothy and enjoyed the inn's renowned Eastern cuisine. After dinner, they played a few card games and returned to the hot springs for another soak. Just like that, the relaxing evening at the hot springs came to a calm and peaceful close. Little jingle. Well then, Miss Mao, thank you very much for everything. I'm glad you got to relax and enjoy yourselves here. You look like you were having a lot of fun too, Tita. I did. You all got pretty chummy last night, didn't you? Oh, by the way, where's that girl with the glasses? Wasn't she with you? Looks like she's still sleeping. We tried to wake her up, but no luck, so we decided to just leave. When Dorothy wakes up, please tell her we said goodbye. Of course, no problem. Tita, be sure to send my regards to Russell, alright? Tell him to focus on living a proper, healthy life rather than being consumed by his research. I'll pass that on. Take care of yourself too, Grandma. I'll visit again soon. I look forward to it. That goes for you bracer kids too. Drop by again if you get the chance. I think the hot springs refill limit break gauge. The baths are always open, so feel free to use them anytime. Yep, you can count on it. Food was amazing. We're already looking forward to coming back. That was such a nice stay. I'm totally refreshed now. It's all thanks to you for letting us come with you to the pump repair. We owe you one, Tita. Oh, I didn't do anything. I should be thanking you for last night. The more low-key and low-stakes the game gets, the more it's going to be about fighting Safer Sephiroth, God Extra God of the Cosmos. Here instead of Gurren Lagann stakes in 19 games. Oh man, that's one way of putting it. I had so much fun. I'm so happy to hear that. I guess we all helped each other. Yeah. Alright then, shall we head back to the city of Zeiss now? The professor might be done cutting into the Black Orbment, which I will go over once again shortly. Oh right, we still got that thing to deal with, huh? Man, I totally forgot about that. I know you did. You're so funny, Estelle. Okay, so I just want to make sure there's not a path that I missed to get behind the tower. That's not a path. This is also not a path, this is the port, landing port. And you can't get back there from here, so... Okay. Yeah, this game is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the Trails world. Go ahead and save here. Fighting Christian, it's so type beat. And it's actually for... not to spoil the series, the same those reasons that I actually kind of because you play as the protagonists change every few games, and initially I wasn't a fan of that because I really like Estelle and Joshua. But man, it is a big ass fucking world, and there is a lot going on in it. Multiple protagonists is absolutely warranted for the Trails series. Last game is gonna be crazy. Oh yeah.
Wait for me!
I already thought other games got really fucking insane. I have to say this now. The two Crossbow games, Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure, even by themselves, they're better if you play the first two games, but even by themselves, Trails from Zero and Trails to Azure together is one of the best JRPG stories I've ever gone through. Even without the rest of the series. FF7 and Boss Level with 12 different parties fighting a planet, yeah. Oh hey Dorothy, you're finally awake.
You're all so mean. You didn't have to leave me like that.
I hope they keep pumping out remakes. I'll absolutely stream the remakes. Huh? I thought you said you were staying in Elmo to take photos for the new article, Dorothy.
Oh, did I? Oh well, I don't want to be the odd one out. I can go with you, right, T?
T? Is that supposed to mean me? Who said you could call her T?
Because Tita's kind of a mouthful. Is that okay?
I guess it's okay.
Thanks, T.
T. You really marched to your own drum, huh? Well, now that that's established, shall we get moving to the city of Zeiss?
Now you're talking.
Alright, let's head out.
My body feels a little lighter than usual.
Might be thanks to the hot springs.
Yep, my skin's still super smooth, too.
Some massive, really deep role pulling. And it also takes its time in adding depth to its characters, too. But I like Estelle and Joshua as protagonists, especially Estelle. Estelle is like the best female protagonist in the RPGs for me, at least. The party that is the Crossbell party, there's 4 main characters in the two Crossbell games. That party their dynamic is awesome when it comes to JRPGs. And for Cold Steel, because Cold Steel you play as a single student and you have like a class as your party. Things get a little muddled, but at the same time they don't, because it also takes its time setting up depth for all the characters in that class. And there's like a dozen characters you can play as in this game. To get more smarter, more self-smarted, more smartlier.
Oh, I played with the doggies around here yesterday.
She calls that play.
Oh, really? Oh, that sounds like fun.
Come on, Dorothy.
You were playing with them. You were being attacked by them.
Estelle, don't bother.
Oh, perfect timing.
Yes!
Hey there, young ones. Can I ask you something?
God damn, he is massive.
Huh?
Wow, he's so big.
A bear?
A bear, huh? Well, don't worry.
Oh,
come
I
in
didn't mean to
peace.
fucking skip him.
A bear, huh? Well, whatever. Don't worry. I come in peace. I just need some direction.
Sorry, getting a little excited here.
Do you know where the hot spring village called Elmo is?
Oh, we actually just came from there.
Head south and follow the road. Can't miss it.
Ah, I see, I see. I was starting to feel a bit lost. Thank you. Hey, you kids are...
Huh?
I see now. Maybe this is...
Did you want something from us?
No, sorry about that. It's nothing. All right, see ya.
Can you guess what class he is? He was one laid-back guy, huh? His outfit kinda had an Eastern vibe. Maybe he's from another country. The Wolf Fort is in the eastern part of Zeiss. It's the gateway to the Calvard Republic. Maybe he came from there. Yeah, I think you're probably right. A lot of people in Zeiss are from the east, like Grandma Mao. Oh yeah, Kilika's from there too, huh? Anyway, he was huge! I was so shocked. He really did look like a big bear. Maybe he looked like one, but that guy was way tougher than any bear I've seen. I mean, I bet he's a really strong martial artist. How can you tell? Well, I know some martial arts myself. Sure, he was big, but that's because his body was incredibly well trained. Yeah, there was no wasted movement in his footwork either. I think Estelle's right about him. He's probably an expert fighter.
Did he come all the way from Calvary
I don't think there's a... Okay, yeah.
just to enjoy the hot springs?
It could be what's called a hot spring cure. I've heard many people travel from abroad for it.
You're probably right. These hot springs are worth the trip.
Okay, let me make sure there's no other sub-events. No, okay. So we're gonna go back to town
This guy means business. I'm
and
game.
hand in my shoes quest. My Nikes, my Yeezys.
Huh?
What's wrong, Estelle?
Is it just me or is it kind of noisy?
No, I can hear it too. Sounds like a commotion. It's coming from the direction of the central factory.
What?
What? What do you mean?
I don't know, but we'd better check it out.
Okay, I'm gonna hand these quests in. Just as a reminder, we have a general goods store. Actually, I need to check if there's a new
What to pick? What to pick?
newspaper.
Time for some shopping.
There's not. Okay. This is a reminder. We have Professor Russell trying to cut into the black orbit. Sorry, that's what she said in the last exchange. Here it is. Kilika, report.
Lay it on me.
I'll prepare. Nice, nice. Did I get the next report?
Good work.
Did something happen, Kilika? There seems to be a situation at the central factory. Yes, but unfortunately, we still don't know exactly what's happening. All of our braces were out, so we couldn't respond right away. I need you two to head to the central factory immediately. If it's an emergency, assess the situation and act accordingly. Okay, got it. Understood. Make sure there's no other
Let's
quests.
see.
We already did that, okay. Okay, so all I have to do is hand in the shoes. And the black ornament last time basically set off an EMP in the area. Took out the entire city for a minute. We just had this sitting in our fucking pocket. Let's go up the wrong escalators.
Oh,
Damn.
I thought I was gonna die.
Glad you're safe. Okay, is that everyone?
Yes, all of the regular staff are. Mr. Murdoch!
Oh, you're back from Elmo.
what's going on?
Gas leak inside the building. There's smoke from
Gas
the
leak?
basement up to the 5th floor.
Was it a fire?
The fire suppression system hasn't activated yet, so probably not. But we've got no idea what's causing the smoke.
Mr. Murdoch, where's Grandpa?
Oh, he should be around. Hazel, thought you said everyone's safe.
Well, all of our staff is safe, but I haven't confirmed Professor Russell's safety.
What? He's still inside?
Mr. Murdoch, let us handle this.
We'll go in and confirm.
Sorry. Thank you. I'll leave it to you.
I'll go with you.
What?
Tita?
I know a lot about the Central Factory, so I can guide you to.
Tita.
Oh, I didn't even cut her off. I keep cutting off people.
Fine. Come on.
But you have to leave if it gets dangerous, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, damn, she's got a bazooka and a minigun, Joshua. I don't know if that's gonna be necessary.
No.
Sorry, but you have to stay.
Oh, so quick. But of course you'd say no. Okay, be careful in there.
The professor should be in the workshop on the 3rd floor if he's still inside. You should check there first.
Yep, got it.
We'll be on our way.
I hope I'll still be able to hand in the
I hope he's alright.
Shears quest.
Whoa. Oh man, this place is smoky. Huh? But it's easy to breathe.
This haze. It's probably a type of disruptive smoke screen. There should be a smoke grenade somewhere on the floor.
What?
Why would something like that be here?
I don't know. But if we stop the smoke grenade, the haze should clear up.
Got it. We'll take care of it when we find it. Back to Professor Russell. He's probably in the 3rd floor workshop, right?
Yeah, I'm sure he is. Whenever Grandpa's doing research, he gets so caught up in it that he doesn't notice anything else around him.
Let's hurry to the 3rd floor.
Hyperfixation in the scientist. Okay, I think you can just check this stuff. Everything's marked, so. Wow, what's that? Hey, Joshua, isn't this? Yeah, that's the smoke grenade. Here, give it to me. I think this gives extra BP if you get all of them. Joshua, quickly disassemble the smoke grenade. Oh, the haze is gone. Joshua, that was amazing. There's probably more of these. Let's deal with them as we go. Okay. BP increased by 1. Okay, so really a huge boost to BP if we get all of them. What? The automatic doors would open. The orbital energy isn't flowing in? No, it seems like it's still working. Maybe someone's using the elevator right now. Someone. Maybe Professor Russell? The elevator will be back down by now in that case. Either way, we'll have to go up using the emergency stairs. Yeah, guess so. Not the stairs. Anything but those. Okay, so there's definitely ones on the 2nd floor. Is this outside? No, this will be in the basement.
The stairway area is smoky too. Tita, watch your step.
I'm gonna save here just in case. It looks like the story beat is upstairs, but there's something downstairs too.
I'm alright. I can make this climb even with my eyes closed.
Don't rush, okay?
Down to Goblin Town. Here we are. Joshua quickly disassembled the smoke grenade. Another BP. Fitting that I'll get the haze. What do you call it? The haze orbits. If I get all the BP here. Okay, upstairs. Another floor. This is floor 2. I have one in the corner over here, next to the elevator. Joshua quickly disassembled the smoke grenade. BP by 1. So that's the story B. I'm gonna go up to the 4th floor first and grab this other grenade. Back, yeah. Joshua quickly disassembled the smoke grenade. EP increase. And then it looks like there's one more below on the 3rd floor. We won't touch Professor Russell's door just yet. That might fail the extra objectives. Here we are. Joshua quickly disassembled the smoke grenade. And another one. Alright. Professor Russell.
Grandpa, we're in trouble.
No Grandpa, but his machine's running.
Wait, why is that saw moving by itself?
I have to stop it. Grandpa, where is he?
The professor's not the only thing missing. Where's the black orbment? Maybe.
There you are.
Yes.
Agate?
Why are you here?
That's my line. Came to see what the hell's going on. And here you brats are beating me to it. Why do you amateurs always stick your noses where they don't belong?
You! Ugh! You're just as infuriating as ever.
Do you know him?
Yeah, that's Agate, the senior bracer from the guild.
Hey, hang on a sec. What the hell is this brat doing here?
Hey! Did you really have to scare a little girl like that?
I got a lot to say, but I'll save it for later. So what the hell's going on here?
Right.
They explain that Professor Russell is missing.
A smoke grenade? The professor? This is sketchy as hell. We've got no time. We've got to find that professor now.
Yeah.
Got it.
Grandpa.
Oh, yes.
Just don't get in my way.
He looks even more agitated than usual. It's not like him.
Let's go over. So I actually picked up, here we are. He's got a cross-shaped scar like Kenshin, he does. I actually picked up his sword in the tower earlier. So nice, he's got a nice upgrade. He's got great gear on, nice, okay. So let's give him some extras. Burn Confused Death Blow. Resist stat debuff, resist delay evasion up. Just confuse, petrify, freeze. So the multiple is going to help significantly. Its art's up, but not terrible on him. We get his accuracy up because I don't want him to miss. This will put him. Oh, that's on Estelle. Never mind. How about this is strength up. This is speed and evade up. He actually has a really strong evade. Rurouni Kenshin's a good watch. I've only seen the live action movie. I never watched like the I never watched like the anime or anything like that. Live action movie on Netflix. I think it was on Netflix. Okay, this is 20% is terrible. Just delay. I'll go with the Force Seal. Alright. Thoroughly enjoying it. Maybe I'll check it out sometime then. Alright.
Huh? Why is this door?
Kept you waiting. We've secured our final target.
Kept you waiting, huh?
It's time to go. You ready?
Those voices.
Check here to watch Rega, especially once it gets going. I do need like another anime to watch.
We gotta hurry! To the elevator!
I want to get invested.
You bastards!
Hey, it's those guys.
Grandpa?
You're Haggett Crossner? Not him. We'll have to slip through here.
Hey, get back here!
Get back here, survivors.
You're not getting away, damn it! Shit! They escaped!
Oh, we were so close.
Oh no. Why would they take Grandpa?
Let's use the emergency stairs. They're trying to leave from the central factory.
Yeah, they'll either go into town or through the tunnel. We gotta move, brats!
Duh, we know.
Oh, there's a blue in here. The Capel unit. Capel? The hell's that? It's the orbital calculator that Professor Russell created. Looks like someone removed the core component. You mean they took it with them? Probably. Rurouni Kenshin, Rurouni Kenshin. I'll commit that one to memory. I'm gonna watch a few episodes tonight even. After stream. I got something else to do though. Tomorrow. Okay, I don't want to do the story beat just yet. Okay, so there's something here and there's something in the basement. So let's do the elevator first. Look, it's the elevator. So they did go down to the first floor. Which means they escaped through the main entrance. Why would they do that? There were so many people outside. Who cares? Get moving. And a lot of emphasis on teaching Japanese history of the time period, which is very much... Ooh. I am also a historical value enjoyer. There's another thing, wasn't there? Did I miss it? I could have swore there was another event, but I guess not. Alright. What part of Japanese history does it take place in?
Oh, you're back!
Glad you're safe. I thought something bad happened when the army soldiers came out.
Army soldiers?
Wait a sec. Were they wearing black?
Black? What are you talking about? They were polite soldiers in blue and white military uniforms. I heard they rushed over from the air-letting checkpoint.
I'm pretty sure that was the Queen's Royal Guard's uniform. They were so cool and sophisticated. I just had to take a photo of them.
The Royal Guard? You mean the Royal Guard?
That's the army that arrested the mayor in Rouen. But why were they here?
Were they carrying my grandpa?
Professor Russell? I don't think so. I saw them carrying some large luggage, though.
Eiji era Japan after topping the shogunate into late 1800s, pretty sure. Oh, okay.
That's gotta be them.
If it's not Meiji era, I also enjoy Sengoku era significantly.
So they changed into military uniforms inside the elevator.
But history always tickles me, so.
Damn them messing with us like that.
Wait, what in the world are you talking about?
We'll give you the details later. Which way did those soldiers go?
Well, they said they had business down in the city, so...
We're going after them.
No way they're getting away with this.
The party split up and thoroughly searched the city of Zeiss, but they weren't able to find the men who abducted the professor. Later that day, a unit from the Royal Army arrived from Leiston Fortress.
We understand the details. Even so, this is quite a serious situation. This can be categorized as an act of terrorism.
Dun dun.
Terrorism?
Terrorism.
Hell,
using smoke grenades to create chaos, kidnapping one of the kingdom's greatest minds. And on top of all that, they stole the state-of-the-art Capel's core unit. These are heinous acts that cannot be condoned.
So, what's the Royal Army gonna do?
We've already established roadblocks at Airleton, Wolf Fort, Soldat Army Road, and Sanctime Gate. There is no way the culprits will be able to escape Zeiss now.
Wow, you're awfully quick.
It is our duty as the Intelligence Division to respond swiftly during emergencies.
I'd like to ask you something. What do you make of the fact that the culprits disguised themselves as the Royal Guard?
It is indeed a grave matter. Which brings me to Miss Dorothy Hyatt.
Huh? Are you talking to me?
I understand you've captured the fleeing culprits with your camera. We would like you to entrust us with the exposure quartz.
What? But it's such big scope.
This is not an excuse, but the Royal Guards are the pride of the Royal Army. In order to protect their honor and, by extension, Her Majesty's reputation, please forgo reporting on this. Although this may be unofficial, this is the stance of the entire Royal Army.
Fine. But you better give it back once you find out the details, okay?
Dorothy handed the exposure quartz to Captain Amalthea. I think I said that right. Amalthea. Amalthea? Amalthea.
We appreciate your cooperation. And one more thing. I must ask the Bracers to refrain from conducting any further investigations.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. I've been after these punks in black for quite a while. I'm not backing off even if it's about saving face for the military.
I guess we must give up. You may continue your investigation. However, if you discover anything, you must report it to the Intelligence Division at Leyston Fortress.
Sure, whatever. You do the same. You find something out, report it to the Zeiss Bracer Guild.
Understood. Now, if you'll excuse us.
Ooh, that was kind of nerve-wracking. She's Colonel Richard's adjutant, right?
Yeah, looks like she's here on his behalf.
It's a big word for Estelle, adjutant.
Just can't stand the military. Forget it. Looks like the culprits are hiding somewhere in Zeiss. First, we'll report this to the guild. Then start searching outside the city.
Okay. Hey, wait. You're not going to tell us to stay out of this like you always do?
Nah, you'll come in handy. Put you to work as my assistants.
You're as cocky as ever. Oh well, guess I'm used to it.
Looking forward to working with you.
Yeah. Don't slack off, got it? All right, Factory Chief. We're heading out.
Okay. I'm counting on you. Please, save the professor.
Poor Tita. We'll save the girl's grandfather. Okay, so now I can hand in the shoe quest. One more floor. Over-explain everything that happens. You over-explain, and you always have the one character that repeats what we just said. This guy did that. That guy did that. And then he did this. And then he did this. Report test results. Unfortunately, I don't think he walked around enough. What? I thought I hit every place. The souls aren't worn down at all. It's not enough to draw any conclusions from. Oh, really? Better hit the road again then. Yes, sorry, but I hope you can see it through. What did I miss? I went to the fortress. I went to the village. No, he didn't mention. Okay, let me look at this quest. No. No. So many menus. Okay, alright. Nope, that's not it. Nope. No. No. Here we go. Okay, so... Nice. Okay, so... Ammo Fort, Ammo Village. The only thing I think of is the caves underneath the, under the factory. Oh, I need to hand this in too, the books. Maybe I don't. I should have just taken the elevator. Whatever. One more. Head to the guild to make your report. Actually, if I can... I'll just do it later. I think this quest takes a long time. Like, it has a long time frame to actually do the shoes quest. The booklet I'm not so sure on.
Oh, I just remembered. I need to buy some exposure quartz. So I have to go.
Oh, okay. Thanks for everything, Dorothy.
Oh, no. I didn't really do anything. I'll check with the editors to see if they have any leads. So you better cheer up, okay, T?
Yes, thank you, Miss Dorothy.
There's nothing to worry about. The incredible bracers will absolutely rescue your grandpa. Okay, see ya!
See ya.
Tita, don't look so sad. The professor's safe. I just know it.
Yeah, there's no way they'll hurt the kingdom's greatest genius.
Estelle, Joshua. Yeah, you're right.
No, I fucking... They're off.
Hey, what's with that scowl?
Nothing. We don't want to waste time. We're going to the guild right now.
Strange, I don't see a place to actually hand in
Let's
the...
go.
Let's
Sure.
go.
Let's go.
This one. Oh well. I'll figure it out. So, I think I have to walk here. I may have to walk here, but it's gonna take a while. I can't actually fast travel anywhere, which means I can't actually go anywhere. Ah, Professor Alba, the archaeologist.
Oh, you're back. Perfect timing.
Huh?
You're...
Oh my, if it isn't Estelle and Joshua. Long time no see. How have you been?
Hi, Professor Alba. I didn't know you were in Zeiss. Why are you here? Looking to hire some bracer bodyguards?
Shoulders.
No, it's more important. We just found out where the culprits went. And it's all thanks to our witness here.
What?
You gotta be kidding me.
So the situation really is quite
Oh no.
serious.
He opened his eyes.
Goodness, I'm so glad I came to report it. You see, I just so happened to be studying the tower until recently.
By the tower, do you mean one of the tetracyclic towers?
Which you went into earlier.
The Crimson
Last time.
Tower. The one up north on the Plains Road.
Correct. Then suddenly a number of soldiers rushed into the tower. At first, I assumed that the Royal Army was there for research too, but as I was eavesdropping, I heard words such as kidnapping and escape route. Very unsettling, is it not? So, I decided to come make a report.
Do you remember what their uniform looked like?
I remember it being blue and white. It sure was elegant. Which should be no surprise from the Queen's kingdom. Even the soldiers are dressed wonderfully.
It's gotta be them. To the Crimson Tower, now!
Yep.
Got it.
Please, everyone. Please allow me to go with you.
Tita.
We need our support character.
That's...
Hey, Pipsqueak.
What?
Listen, no way in hell we're taking you with us. Use your brain, kid.
But Grandpa's been kidnapped, and I...
We've got no time for this, so I'll cut to the chase. You'll get in the way, so stay here.
Damn. She's gonna cry. I'm gonna cry.
Hey, you could have at least said it nicer.
Shut up. You know I'm right, don't you? We don't got time to babysit a civilian, let alone a brat.
Well... Hey, Joshua, say something.
Sorry, but I agree with Agate. Those culprits were cunning and probably know we're looking for them by now. It's too dangerous to take her with us.
Joshua!
I don't know if these guys realize this little girl carries a bazooka around like it's a fucking toy. She also has a whole ass minigun strapped to her back. Could that be escape our freedom of armies discussed turns out dangerous? Smart guy, don't got time for that shit.
I'm sorry, Tita.
Zeiss,
I guess we
otherwise
really
known as
can't
Venezuela.
take you with us this time.
Estelle! This is unfair! So unfair!
No, she's gonna cry.
Tita!
Hold on, Estelle. We should give her some space. The best thing we can do for her is rescue the professor as quickly as possible to put her at ease.
You're right. That's probably the only thing we can do.
You can't just give children bazookas and be like, nah, you can't fight. And we has to pick a side.
A waste of time. Kilika, make sure to contact the army.
Of course. Good luck.
It seems like something very serious is happening right now. Please, take care of yourselves.
The Crimson Tower is located in the northeast direction, correct? Let's hurry.
This is a race against time. Stay sharp.
Everybody said it's not royal, not part, of course, you're in the States. Well, as your friendly neighborhood Canadian condescending stare.
All right, here we go.
I hope I don't have to run all the way back to get the fucking shoes. I'm gonna try it. This might be the place. If it's not here, it's Airletten Gate.
Be careful, Estelle.
Let's run past here.
Yeah.
We lost Tita, so I'm not comfortable doing these chests just yet. And I'm pretty sure there's missions that send us in here. I suppose in that case I shouldn't have to actually come back here, but I'll just make sure. I might get a prompt at the end of this cave. No prompt. Okay. Let's try here.
Be there in a jiffy.
Yes, here we go. Okay. So it was Airletten. Okay, now I can hand in the shoes quest.
All right, here we go.
Foist floor? He's not on the foist floor, he's on the third floor. The third floor. There we go. Oh, he's not on the third floor, he's on the fourth floor. Or is that the fifth? He's on the fourth floor, okay. Shoes quest. I feel like we've walked around quite a bit. Maybe it's time to report back. If you feel like there's still testing left to do, it might be a good idea to continue a little longer. Yeah. I think this is it. I'm almost certain this is the last thing you... I think. I don't think you have to take it to the top of this tower. I think I already went to the top of the tower where the shoes. But I don't have time to check the VOD, so... Report. Yeah, the souls are worn down. The way it's worn proves the material I chose is the right one. The test has been a great success. Music to my ears. Does this mean the test is complete? Yeah, great job. You've been a big help. I can't wait to see the new product in stores too. I'll be sure to pass the results on to Strega. Take care now. Thanks for everything. Bye for now.
Mission complete.
Alright, some more BP. I don't think I missed any extra prompts for that one. I hope. Let's hand in this quest real fast. I want to be Agate.
Gotcha.
His sword is so big. There we go.
I see.
So 10 more. They get Heat Haze, 3 Mirage, 3 Shatter, 3 Time, and 3... Oh, you get all 3 of the rare ones. Mirage, Time, and Space. Decrease chance of being targeted in crit command battles. So that actually would be good on Joshua.
I hope
He's
you
squishy.
continue to impress.
Professor Alba. It seems like something very serious happening right now. Please take care. Okay, no weird prompts. Oh, there is one at Wolf Fort. Some of it.
Let's get moving.
Make a quality product just break down fast and improve profits and speed. I still live in liberal. Yeah. Shoes that last longer than 6 months? Say it ain't so. Bruno! There was an incident in Zeiss, so they started doing inspections here too. Maybe we should wait a bit before going back. I should read a book to kill some time. Do you read books much? If you don't mind ones I've already read, I'm happy to share some with you. Cornelia Volume 7. This novel is interesting. I highly recommend it. Shh, I'm not gonna read. This novel is not relevant until 3 games from now. I think. 2 or 3 games from now. Okay, I have to go to the tower next, so... Which, we've already cleared the tower, which is good. So it should just be a straight run to the top.
Hey, that light.
What light? What is he talking about? Oh, the palm. That's right. The shining palms give it a level, I think, but they're really annoying to kill. Like metal slimes from Dragon's Quest. I hope I can do that soon. So this is the Crimson Tower, which we already did. You really think the professor and those soldiers are here? No doubt about it. There are multiple footprints all over the place. Not a bad place for a hideout, but... You guys, look out! More dogs. What? Aren't they... Jackpot! Here we go. Alright, we have the cheat character that is called Agate. So here we go.
Time to strike! Agate, your turn!
It's over. Eat this. Final break.
Hit the first.
Yes.
Hit him with a black flag. Flame? Black fang. Really happy. Actually, this is probably overkill, but I don't care. This is cool.
Bite.
Oh yeah. It's all come together. Level up. Why are those monsters here? Maybe. Guys in black are behind us. Those guys in black are behind us. Yeah, no question. Pretty sure they're trained attack dogs or something. Attack dogs? I've been attacked by those monsters a bunch of times ever since I started going after these assholes. I know they're behind us. I see. Wait, does that mean the Crony Pass checkpoint was attacked because you were there? Well, you could say that. This is all because your old man forced me on this case in the first place. You think I enjoy this crap? I can't say much to that. Come to think of it, Jean also mentioned something along those lines. How did you end up getting involved? Right before all that sky pirate crap, the old man showed up out of nowhere and dumped it on me. Said he had some urgent business to handle or whatever. Also, hello, Alice. That old man's a master at playing dumb. Speaking of Alice, actually, good timing. I had a chance to look up some of the stuff for that Steam Remote Play, because it's been a while since I used it. Probably tomorrow in the evening if you're free. We could see if we can get that set up. It's either going to take 5 minutes and it'll work instantly and perfectly without any issues, or it could take an hour to troubleshoot. Because I remembered that I actually gave myself and Doom an issue a few years ago, trying to get it to work smoothly in regards to picking up Player 2's controller. But we can figure that out tomorrow if you're free. I never knew that. Worst part is, I don't feel like I can hand the job off to anyone else. Especially not before I catch that damn weasel myself. That weasel? Forget it. Come on, we gotta get to those guys in black and rescue the old man. You did it tomorrow? Awesome, awesome, awesome. How much better of a painter I am? Oh no. You're not seeing my painting skills. I paint like a 5-year-old. In fact, if anyone has any 5-year-olds laying around, we can compare paintings. I think I might lose.
Phew, that was a good break. Let's get to it.
This guy means business. I'm game.
Okay, we're gonna run straight to the top. Forget all this. Now if I can remember which way. I think it's straight first. Possible painting stream. Oh no. Oh no. I'll do assembly. I'll do assembly. I'll do assembly. I'll do model assembly.
Stay on guard.
As I was mentioning earlier, I found some I found a high-grade tall geese I can get for a good price. Painting though? Oh god. We are straight to the top.
That's the stuff.
HP. Ooh. This is long. Why is Tita still on here? Okay, I want this on Estelle. Hell yeah. That's 3 action 2, action 3. Should probably actually put a casting on him. But I don't think I have any more casts. How do I do? But not a cast 3. It's not worth going to cast 1. Plus this gives strength. That was okay, but I don't like the RNG behind it. It doesn't feel like procs enough. 2 follows away from your follow to build a 30-minute fantasy model. 30 minutes? You can build those that fast? Shit, every time I watch Doom Guide put them together, it takes like... no shade on him. I don't know what the standard time is to put together one of those models. I seem like some you get to put a couple hours aside for.
That's the stuff.
Save here. They're simple. Ah, okay, I see. I gotcha. Gotta build regular Helgard at some point. Okay. I would like to build a tall geese. Like I said earlier, Gundam Wing is where I got into Gundam. And Zex was the coolest motherfucker around. He's also very pretty. He's one of those pretty male anime characters.
We finally cornered those scumbags.
What the? Bracers? Damn it! We underestimated their tracking skills.
It's pretty impressive that you skipped town in disguise. But you kind of fumbled at the end.
Perhaps you shouldn't have assumed no one would find you here. Now, how about you spare us the trouble and release Professor Russell?
In accordance with Bracer Protocol, you lot are under arrest. Shame that smug jerk with the mask ain't here. I'll take what I can get with you punks.
Don't be a fool! We'll take you down!
Look at these lame Survivor knockoffs. Let's show 'em what for. We are going to... That's right, I don't have a... We're gonna speed up Agate, I think. Yeah, we're gonna speed up Agate. Stay kind of far away from each other. We don't want to get AoE'd to death.
Thanks.
I don't think Agate is an actual speed up buff. Still, we're going to Morale. TP Gen. Strength up, defense up, always good.
I won't let you.
Stand back!
Oh, he's gonna crit.
Damn you!
Still is paralyzed, sucks.
Don't move!
I got 30 fantasy ones. Like,
Now
you
is
have
the time of your reckoning. Give
even
up while you
posted
still
in like
can.
your Discord.
Keep talking!
Next goal is something bigger,
We won't
bigger,
surrender
and
to the
better.
likes of you! We'll be the victors here!
Nowhere to run.
Shit. I have a crit, but I don't. Ah, whatever.
Prepare yourself. Finish it, Joshua.
I want to not have Estelle.
Let's make this easy!
Well, it's only 2, I suppose. Stop hitting yourself. I don't have confused, and Estelle has a confused, but she's muted. Or sealed, rather. Which is not good. You Estelle? Okay.
Agate, do it!
Now Agate has some extra CP. I'm not gonna get the full power limit break. That's only at 200. But at 145, so I can hit him with something and then smash them. I'm gonna get a burn off actually. Nice. Auto break.
I got this!
This should steal their CP up.
Let's go. It's over. Eat this. Fine.
Kill the survivors. Roundhouse the survivors. Beat the survivors.
Let's end them.
Okay.
Not very good at surviving, are they? One of them's almost dead. Oh, it's so second.
You guys are so persistent.
But we're landing hits. Keep it up.
Where's my
Don't underestimate us!
Earth Guard?
No one will halt our plans!
Here we go.
I'll be
He's
your
enraged,
opponent.
but he's also almost dead, so that's fine. Dasha's gonna be a little supporty in this fight.
Let us begin.
Are these guys the inspiration for your PNG? They are. Not these guys specifically.
Eat this!
I would say the one with the red helmet would be the closest inspiration.
I won't let you.
That and FF7,
Ready at any time.
the soldiers.
Unleashing!
I just like this look, man. It's always been cool. It's so mysterious. Okay, I want. One of these guys can be poisoned. Let's try it.
Let us begin.
Eat this! Eat this!
Healing. Let us begin. Sit.
Poison? Strike at least.
Get pulverized! There!
Faster.
Yeah, Agate's actually about to get a
I won't let you.
This is the end!
limit break buff.
Don't move!
I'll beat you down.
Yeah, mix of the commander of these guys, the one in the red mask that Agate fought in the cutscene last time I streamed, and the soldiers from FF7.
Let's get this done.
Okay, if
Nowhere
I
to run.
I get a full powered limit break. Okay. Here we go. I'll beat his ass.
Eat this! Final break! Serves you right.
Seal bonus. Nice, nice, nice.
Now I'm riled up.
Now I'm mad. Full power.
Okay, that's one is stun. That's perfect. Excellent. Very good. Now, I'm pretty sure Agate can actually get himself killed with his own ability, so I'm gonna heal him up. Tyrol.
Here we go.
Is it stun? Skip. Agate gets healed.
You can do it.
Thanks.
Nice. And he still has Earth Shield up, so that's perfect. Can I flicker? Flicker into Black Fang.
You're mine.
Wide open! Faster! Leave it to me.
Oh, he was so close!
I won't let
Oh shit, Joshua's getting wrecked by counter. Okay. At least I use his limit break, because that gets reset. Yeah, they're all attacking it still, just fine.
I won't let you.
Agate, put in work.
My turn.
Okay, so if I tier all, and I get off a heal. Not really. Okay, so I'm gonna use an item. Let's see. I'm gonna hold on to that heal. I need some food. On as high as we can.
Not done yet.
Royal Creppy should work. Royal Creppy. Creppy.
Phew, that was close.
Okay, that's Barrage.
All right.
I might be able to just kill these guys.
This is the end.
Nice.
Agate, your turn.
That's one at least. And this should mark the end of the fight.
Let's go. It's over.
It's over.
Eat this. Final break.
It's kind of overkill, but you actually get bonuses for overkilling, so. Hell yeah. XP.
What skilled fighters you are, bracers.
But have you all forgotten about our hostage?
Guys, just admit you lost and give up.
I just remembered. I just remembered all the reference images I sent to my artists a year ago when I was commissioning this PNG model. Man, those references look pretty terrible because I have limited Photoshop skills, but I put together a mishmash of all this bullshit for her to draw. And I think the end product actually came out well, but she must be some kind of miracle worker because I actually looked at the reference images I sent her. I was like, how the hell did she pull that out of what I sent her?
You're after
It's like a
Professor
Frankenstein
Russell's
of images all
intellect,
glued
aren't you?
together.
Do you really want to take the risk of harming him?
Shut up. Care to test your luck?
Ugh, you're really pissing me off. Give up already. The Royal Army's on the move. You've got nowhere to run. What's so damn funny?
Oh, it's nothing. We were just laughing at how foolish you all are. And besides, it's about time.
What? Ugh.
Estelle, look
Nutty.
out!
I see it. Oh, I knew that was an airship.
Shit, they've got these kind of connections?
Ha! Looks like the tables have turned.
We could wipe you all out right now. We got no interest in picking a
I
fight
like their
with the
villain
Bracer
voice.
Guild.
It's so over the top.
So just stay quiet and out of the way. Then we'll let you walk out of here.
You cocky jerks! You think we're just gonna let you...
Estelle, let's do what they say for now.
What?
Play along and wait for an opening. When they go to take the old man on board, that's when we make our move.
All right, got it.
So, gave up, have you?
You've made the right choice.
Now then, farewell.
Now!
No! No!
Oh shit.
What the hell?
A kid?
Tita?
A child.
Shoot! She followed us here?
Give me back my grandpa! If you don't, I'll do this!
She's strapped.
You brat! You're not getting away with this!
Uh-oh.
Oh crap!
Tita!
Damn it!
Oh, he went for the kill shot. God damn, he almost murdered that child.
Hey, what kind of idiot shoots a kid?
He's
Isn't
shaking.
that one just for testing?
My bad. I thought she was gonna destroy the airship.
Whatever. We're departing now.
Artists tend to pick out the good stuff to make it look good. Ain't that the truth? Tattooers as well. Tattoo artists that tell you idea look like shit and whatnot. They're definitely right. Gotta protect the old souls a lot more. Yeah, their whole job was to make it look good, so yeah, I can always appreciate when they're like, nah, your idea sucks, man. What you want to put it on or whatever. We should probably change this around. Always appreciate that.
Tita.
Maybe we should head back to Zeiss for now. We need to report that airship to the guild.
Yeah. Tita, I know it's hard, but...
Why? Why did they have to take Grandpa? It's not right. Why?
Hey, brat.
You know, I remember the slap from the original. I wasn't sure they're gonna keep it in. Just smacked her shit.
I told you to stay put, didn't I? Cause you'd only be in the way.
In his defense, she did almost just get fucking executed by that guy.
Look at this shit. We missed our chance to save the old man because of you. How are you gonna take responsibility for that?
I didn't mean to.
You even pulled some half-ass stunt, putting yourself in danger.
It's a big old laugh. Sorry, it's just so.
You know what pisses me off the most? Brats like you who try to show off their shitty-ass skills in serious situations.
I'm so sorry.
The moral of the story is to beat your children.
Hey! That's so mean! She just watched her grandpa get taken away!
That's exactly why I'm saying it. Hey, cry all you want, but listen to me, brat. You sure you're cool with this? Are you just gonna let them take your old man and do nothing about it? Then quit your moping and get your shit together. Cry if you need, scream if it helps, but first, stand on your own damn feet. How the hell are you gonna save anyone when you don't take care of yourself? If you can't do that, stay the hell out of our way for good. Go back to being a kid. Crawl under a blanket and cry yourself to sleep.
I'm getting mixed signals from Agate.
Honestly, that'd be a hell of a lot easier to deal with.
Tita! I'm fine, Estelle. I can stand up on my own.
You can, huh?
I'm really so sorry. They got away because of me.
Oh, silly. There's nothing for you to apologize for.
Yeah, we're just glad you're safe, Tita.
Thank you, Estelle, Joshua, Mr. Agate.
You're sounding back in whimpers. He's kind of a intimidating guy.
What? Don't even think
He's
about
kind of
why.
intense. Slapping other people's children around.
Thank you so much for saving my life and for cheering me up.
I wasn't cheering you up, dumbass. I just gave a crying brat a good wake-up call.
By slapping her shit.
Yes, that's true.
Hey, you were bawling your eyes out just a minute ago. Why the hell are you suddenly laughing? Oh, you're an oddball.
You know, you should learn how to accept a thank you like a normal person. You don't have to act like a weirdo.
Estelle, I think Agate's just flustered.
Ah, I get it now. Aw, you've actually got a cute side.
Hey, shut the hell up. Whatever, we're heading straight back to the guild. We now know that those assholes are working for someone powerful. And I hate to say it, but we'll have to work with the army on this one.
Yeah, you're probably right.
We should hurry.
All right. Nothing else up here. Yeah, okay. Back down. I can remember the way down. I think it's just
This guy means business.
straight
I'm
across. Once I go down these stairs. Calling me weird, I was rich coming from a girl's attracted to her own brother. That's true. Estelle. Is the pot calling the kettle black?
There's a lot of them. Be careful.
The kettle that slaps around other strangers' children. Straight across, I think. There we go. Step, bro.
All right, rested and ready.
All right. Oh,
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Just a little dizzy, that's all.
Oh, wait! When you saved me from the gunshot!
Now that you say that,
The bullet? Did you get hit?
It's just a scratch. No big deal.
But if you were shot, that's my fault.
yeah, that soldier tried to kill her. He aimed for her head.
Look, this kind of thing happens all the time. Quit whining. Let's get back to Zeiss already.
if you say so.
All right. And I can't fast travel, so it's a fast-forwarded run back.
Yikes! Stay back!
Oh? You guys are...
Aha!
It's you!
The big man.
We met you on the way back from Elmo.
Yeah, thanks again for helping me out back there with the directions. Didn't think I'd run into you again on the Plains Road. Guess we're just that lucky, huh?
Maybe. So, did you soak in the hot springs too, mister?
Sure did, but... can you cut it out with the mister? I'm not that old. Oh, hey, I don't recognize that young guy over there. You're looking a little pale there, buddy. You good?
Huh?
Oh boy.
Whoa, you are pale. Are you okay?
Mr. Agate?
The hell? I told you I'm fine.
And he's out.
What happened?
Wait a minute. This isn't good. His pupils are starting to dilate. They probably coated the bullet in something.
Coated it something? Like poison?
That seems likely.
Shit, I should have given him the poison immunity item.
With his pupils dilating like that, it's probably some kind of plant-based neurotoxin.
It's a big word for a setting like this.
I agree. I can't say for sure, but we should do something before it gets serious.
No.
We need to get him treated fast. Tita, what's the closest place we can go?
The central factory. The 4th floor has a medical office.
Mind leading the way? I'll carry the big guy.
Oh, really?
Look at me. I'm built for this. And carrying heavy stuff is my specialty. Besides, it seems we're in the same line of work.
Same line of work?
Does that mean you're also...
Ah, I haven't introduced myself. The name's Zin Vathek. I'm with the guild over in the Republic. Nice to meet you, bracers of liberal.
Zin, Big Z. I took care of the emergency treatment. Unfortunately, it looks like it's a very special type of neurotoxin. Common antidotes won't work. Will Mr. Agate be okay? He's tough and holding steady for now, but if this coma drags on, his life may be in danger. Oh no. Oh, Joshua. Sorry, I'm late. I reported everything to Kilika. She also notified the army, so we should hear soon if they found out anything. Thanks, that's helpful. Wait, isn't Zin with you? Well, apparently he and Kilika actually already knew each other. So they got some catching up to do, it seems. That makes sense. They're both from the east. So, how is Agate? Well... I see, so he's in a critical state. I hate to say it, but I need to know the exact components of the toxin to make an antidote. But maybe Father Vixen could. Ah, who's Father Vixen? He's the priest here in Zeiss. The Septian Church has over 1,000 years of medical tradition. They made incredible advancements, especially in pharmacology. If anyone knows how to treat a poison like this, it'd be him. Oh, that makes sense. Back in Roland, Father Divine used to help with medicine and prescriptions, too. It sounds like it's worth a try. It's dark outside, but we should head it to the church and see if we can help. Let's go.
Mr. Agate.
Poor Agate.
Don't worry. That red-haired guy is no pushover, all said and done.
Right. For now, let's focus on what we can do.
No sub-events. Alright. There is a sub-event at the guild anywhere else? No. Okay. The guild. Big Z is.
Oh, hey kids.
Zin, you're still here. Thanks again for carrying Agate the whole way here earlier.
We really appreciate it.
Don't mention it. I was just lending a hand to fellow bracers.
So, how is Agate's condition?
Well...
They explained Agate's condition, and that Father Vixen might be able to help.
Sounds like he's in worse shape than I thought.
The church's traditional medicine, huh? I suppose it's our best bet for now.
Yeah, so we gotta go to the chapel now. The longer we stand here, the longer Agate's in pain.
We'll head to the Septian Church right away.
All right. I'm counting on you.
The church for medicine. Now, the church, as The doctor said it has 1,000 years of medical tradition. Now, just for reference on the timeline for this series, the old civilization where the artifacts came from collapsed 1,200 years ago. Alright, Father Vixen. Well, if it isn't Tita. What brings you here so late at night? Please, Father Vixen. You have to help Mr. Agate. I'm sorry, what? Tita, you gotta calm down. What happened was... They explained how Agate was poisoned and his symptoms in great detail. Oh dear, that is truly terrible. That's not good news. Does that mean you can't do anything? Fortunately, the Septian Church has a medicine that's effective against most neurotoxins. Instead of neutralizing the poison, it enhances the immune system to help the body heal naturally. But Sister Kiera, if I recall, that medicine is... Yes, we're out of the necessary ingredients. Oh no. What ingredients? What exactly do you need? We need Zemuria moss, a type of luminous moss named after the ancient civilization. It grows in a limestone cave that's found partway through the Chaldea Tunnel. That's where all the penguins are. I once asked the Bracer Guild to gather some for me before. Chaldea Tunnel? Oh, the tunnel we came through when we first came to Zeiss, right? Oh, that's easy enough. We'll go collect it from the limestone cave right now. What? By yourselves? They're bracers from the guild. I see. In that case, I'm sure you can manage. Before you head to the cave, you should tell the branch officer. She might still have records from the last time we made a request. Got it. Thanks for your time. We'll be on our way now. City of Zeiss. Back to the guild. Talk to Kilika.
And? What did the priest say?
Well...
They explain the details about the Zemuria moss.
Moss, huh?
The guild did collect Zemuria moss as part of a request from the church. Give me a moment. Here it is. It says here that they found it in the northwestern section of Chaldea Limestone Cave, near the lake in the limestone.
The northwest part of the cave, by the lake.
Let's write that down in our handbook.
I cut her off. Sorry, Estelle.
Be careful. I heard the monsters in the limestone cave are very formidable. 4 senior bracers had to form a team to search for the moss in that cave.
4 senior bracers?
It's gonna be a difficult challenge.
In that case...
You should take this man with you.
Hey, hold on. You didn't even ask me.
Oh? You're not going to go?
Well, I was planning to. You really never change, do you?
Such high praise.
That wasn't a compliment, damn it!
So, does this mean you'll join us in?
Yeah, I guess this was fate. I'm heading to the capital tomorrow, so I can only stick with you until then.
That's more than enough. You'll be a huge help.
Thank you very much.
Estelle, Joshua, can I come too? I know I'll probably get in the way, but still, Mr. Agate's life is in danger because he protected me. I can't just sit here and do nothing.
Tita. Joshua, I'm asking too. We've got to take her with us.
Fine. Tita, you have to promise you won't do anything reckless like before, okay?
Yeah, I promise I won't.
Good. Zen, is it okay with you if Tita comes along?
Of course. No objections here. Glad to have you, little miss.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, then we're ready.
He is absolutely
Head straight
enormous.
for the cave.
All right. We'll have to go through the central factory basement to get to the Chaldea Tunnel.
Remember in the old game, the original, his chibi sprite was very, very big. Then this martial arts skill in offensive defense, you use taunt to focus on the arrows. Vitality arts. Alright. No new quests.
Check it out.
Use no new quests. Perfect. So we just need this one. Oh, did I already? In that in. That's what she said. I think Michael Scott right now. Let's go over his... Gear looks fine. Okay, so... Evasion 6. So he's a tank with taunt. This is gonna be nice on him. Resist confuse, resist petrify, resist freeze, burn, mute. So I actually should try to find an upgraded item. There it is.
Hey, welcome.
God damn, he is fucking enormous.
What to pick? What to pick?
Ah, we got new weapons.
Time for some shopping.
Bastard Edge. So we have a new gun for Tita, the craft cannon.
I pick you.
Okay, and he doesn't like any new weapon, but I didn't even consider his accuracy. 56% and crit up. This would be solid on him as well.
I made up my mind.
Not the best, but better than nothing.
See you later.
Now the penguins have a lot of status effects, if I remember right. So defense, he's got defense 3, HP 2. Okay, break 2. I'm gonna keep this. I haven't really fucked with the break build in this game yet. Attack 2 is fine. You get so much Sepith in this game. I think I might. Is there not a Orphan station here? It's a hotel. I might open his last slot.
Are there any bargains?
Come again.
Because I could put accuracy on him, but I need an actual orbit station. I don't know if there is one here. Unless I walk past one.
Hey, welcome.
Upstairs? Nothing. Okay. Oh well, that's fine. The 40% accuracy should help significantly anyway. Now, Zin was secretly the strongest party member, if I remember right, in the original. Because he gets a very powerful self buff. It makes him do obscene amounts of damage. Compare better than Agate, even, eventually. I might have went the wrong way. How do you get to the... Oh, yeah, it's right here. One second, hold on. No, I did do this. Okay, so we hand this in. Second floor. Is it not marked? No. He's huge and it hurts when he pounds you, that's right. He is absolutely enormous. None can ignore his girth. Of his body, I mean. His body. That doesn't help. So I think this quest, either I miss this quest or it's not gonna be back for a while, so I guess I'll just go continue. Because I had the book, I just can't hand it in because the NPC who takes it is missing. Let's go see how well Zin performs.
All right, I'll let you take the lead navigating the limestone cave.
He said as he led the way.
Yes, there are also signs within the tunnels, so we should be able to get there safely.
Right. We saw that on the way here. Come on, let's go.
If it naturally. Well, these are all not going to be worth a whole lot of
There's
XP.
a lot of them. Be careful.
But the penguins in here are probably. There we are. Caldia Limestone Cave. So this is the Caldia Limestone Cave. It's got this air of mystery, huh? Yeah, but I can already sense the monsters further in. Looks like we're in for a good fight. Ah! Tita, if it's too much, you can always head back, okay? Don't force yourself to stay. I'm okay. It's scary, but I won't push myself too hard. Let's go get that Samuria moss. Yeah, let's not hang around. So, it grows by the lake in the cave, right? Yep, that's what they said. The lake's in the northwest section of the cave. We should proceed with caution and keep track of where we are and the direction we travel. By using my map. So, what I'm really interested in is these chests. And then the final areas. Kill some of these penguins. And see how tough they are.
Here we go! Watch out for the ranged attacks!
Oh, that's a cool attack. Full monk style.
Time to get serious. Finish them off! Ready, and...
Okay, I'm doing a lot more damage than I was when I initially came through here, which is great. Okay, let's see what he has. Heralding Fist. That is the S-Craft.
Don't let up.
Composure. Revive, heal, remove debuff. Taunt, okay. Defense down, hate up. I always like when they call it hate in JRPGs, so it always tickles me. Oral Blast. No, this is the Limit Break. This is fucking Kamehameha. Stun, Seal, Steel bonus. Heralding Fist, back attack bonus. Delay up. Composure. See how well this works. Actually, no, I don't want to see how well this works. I want to see the Kamehameha. Kamehameha! It's more like a Super Hadouken. It's not bad. I think they could have done a little more in advance. It looks cool. So far, Tita and Agates is the most impressive. Well, I guess there's Shira too. She just starts whipping the shit out of the enemy.
I did it!
That is quite a sizable amount of XP. Okay. Killing these things then.
Weird monster.
Gotcha!
Kinda cute. Super predator.
Time to get serious.
It's a bit contradictory, but yeah, I give it to me.
What kind of spells does he have? Aqua Bleed, okay. Red Pengu, they're called Pengus. Newt Newt. The red ones are weak to water. So having a lot of spells is really helpful in this dungeon because the different colored penguins have different weaknesses, different elements. So let's try and
Here we go!
take advantage of this. Aqua Bleed. Miss Whip Mommy and Matt Mercer. Will you ever see them again? Yes, we will see them again in this game. Not too much farther from now, I don't think. But they will absolutely be back. This game likes to give you a taste of your party members. I don't want to use that. I want to keep spamming Vital Cannon. Let's try and keep Zin up. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to put Joshua and Zin close to each other. And have Tina be their battery.
Let's pin him down! Yes!
Let's do this! It's over! Here we go! Too slow!
Big XP.
I think I got a little
Nice.
stronger.
So Zen's 35, level 35. I think another level should put me in a solid spot, so.
Not going easy.
Spirit dodges, yeah. I'll just casually kill these things on the way to the chest, because the trap chests have the harder fights in the game. Okay, I forgot to make sure Tita is spraying herself with the vital cannon as well.
Everyone!
Thank
You're
you.
a lifesaver.
Payback time!
Leave it to me.
And Pete, this guy.
Ready anytime. Prepare yourself.
Oh, I forgot this is a defense down, which is really good.
Come on, over here.
Drunken Master. Defense up, ADF up. Nice, he's a perfect tank. It's pretty. No, I'll use this.
Here we go!
I just, for some reason, I missed your comments on me. I'd love to taste whip on. It's the most salamandiest comment you could have made.
Here we go.
You're not wrong though.
Let's go. Operation
We
Initiative.
don't really need the CB, so I'm just gonna cast these guys dead. And that should be the end of this fight. Oh, they're weak to Earth. I didn't even realize. Alright.
Payback time.
I probably should have saved that full burst for the chest, but that's fine. With Zen around, this should be... I should be a lot more straightforward, because I don't have to anticipate them attacking like Tita or Joshua.
Man,
My squishies.
Well done, Zen!
Time to get serious. You're mine.
Can a mall? Oh, yeah, hell yeah. Drunken Master.
Over here.
Let me heal you. Thanks. I'll show no mercy. The perfect move.
These things are not weak to... Or, sorry, not resistant to physical, which is nice. Okay, upkeep.
Everyone! You're a lifesaver.
All right,
Definitely morale.
time to strike!
Constant lyric break regen's gonna help significantly, so.
Penalty units. Arrow blast.
Kaboom!
You're mine! My turn. How's this?
Still bonus, okay.
Ready? Eat this! Let's get him!
Yeah. Roger that.
I hope I get a level up from this fight.
Do this.
3 penguins. Come on. Okay, Tita leveled up, it's good. Okay, then I'll just have to try and deal. Oh, cruel blow. Safeguard. Nice. Joshua's defense then. Serum powder is always good. Hit 3. Ooh, hit 3. Triple to strength. Defense side. Stell. Spirit. This is ADF. So Stell. And Mage Tank. Okay. So I have this hit up ornament. Going to be very helpful. I don't know why she has hit up, but I'm going to put on Joshua for sure. Oh, 30 strength. Very nice. Alright. Now let's pray this fight goes pretty well. I don't remember what's in here. Probably penguins.
The enemy's strong. Keep cool.
It's penguins. Alright.
I'll finish you all off right here. Come on, over here.
Nice.
Let's go. All at once.
What I should do is have Joshua limit break it and then. Yeah, okay.
I'll get you all. Joshua! This is the end. Fight.
Trying to maximize CP gain.
Stay calm, Tita.
There you go.
Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.
This way, Estelle.
Okay, and we have morale.
Time to strike.
And that should give us a good cycle of limit breaks happening. Oh boy. Not as bad as I thought it would. I think these big penguins could call in more, but I don't remember. Okay, we're gonna have Estelle.
Take 'em all.
Stick with the support.
Here we go. There.
All at once.
Spam Vital Cannon.
Good luck.
Joshua might be able to. I don't remember how much this goes. It's 30 or 45?
Thank you.
39. Okay, it must be random.
I'll finish
It's
you all
affected by
off
something, I
right
just don't
here.
remember what. Roll Blast. Then with the Kamehameha. The Gallant Gun. Okay, this fight's not bad as bad as I thought it would be. I think if I tried it before when I initially came down here, I definitely would have got my ass kicked. So this is perfect. I don't know what's in this chest. I hope it's something good.
My turn.
He's weak to fire. Nice. Okay, upkeep CP.
Good luck, everyone.
Thank you.
Lifesaver.
Very nice. Very, very nice. I'm gonna save my full burst for the next chest.
Finish you off.
I'm on fire.
Quack, quack, queet.
Leave
They
it
do
to me.
call extra penguins. Of course they fucking do. I knew it, okay.
All yours, Sin.
Really? You're still alive? How are you still alive? The fast forward.
Charge complete. Maximum output. This heal you.
Thank you.
Lifesaver. Estelle.
How's this? I see you won't escape. Let's get him.
Let's go ahead and use it. No reason not to now. I don't want them calling more penguins.
It's my turn.
Oh, he's mad, man. I realize these things had an rage. Alright. Crit. Nice. Kill? Yes. Okay. And what is my prize?
Let's keep it up.
Nice job, Joshua.
Black coats. Ah, okay, so this is the chapter jacket. I'll put that on Joshua. Keep our protagonist alive. I guess I could put on Zin, but he's pretty strong as is, so I don't think he'll miss it. Okay, next. XP gain isn't as nearly as good, so we don't have to farm anymore. One more chest.
Which way did we come from again?
We might get lost. Oh no, we're in a hurry too.
All the more reason to stay calm. Keep it cool. The path will show itself.
All at once.
Glad we have Zin with us.
Doesn't give a buff, does it? Remove debuff. Okay, no, it's fine.
Operation initiated.
Frozen in terror.
I can take them all.
Morale up.
Let's do this.
Payback time! Ready anytime! Prepare yourself!
And Zin with the taunt.
I'll finish you all off! Come on, over here!
Nice.
Here we go! Energy grenades! Arrow blast!
Monk style.
I'll be your opponent.
That's a lot of stagger. Okay. So stagger. Stagger is really good, actually. I hope this kills him.
Finish this. Ready and it's over. Leave it to me. I'll back you up.
Craft boost. Ooh, that's really nice. Heavy damage up on crafts, including limit breaks. Nice. Kill? Kill. Nice.
Let's keep it up.
And I was worried.
Right on the mark, Joshua.
G impact. Oh, this is a gun for Tita. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, so I'm gonna sell Crimson Knight. Oh, this is her costume from this play, right? I forgot I got this costume. This is a cool costume. I'm not gonna wear it. Casual just removes her gloves? Okay. Interesting. Okay, let's do this story fight. What time is it? Got some time.
Watch out for the
I
ranged
think after this cave is the end of Zeiss. Which I hope to reach. 2-ish streams is roughly how long these cities take. I better heal up.
That was delicious.
Wholesome pasta. Alright, let's save. I just realized there's a rest spot right there. I could have healed that.
Wow.
Oh well.
It's so pretty.
Well now, this is quite a sight.
It sure is. I can't believe we're inside a cave right now.
This must be the cave lake. There should be some Zemuria moss somewhere around here.
All right, let's start looking.
Be this giant rock.
That's it.
So that glowing stuff is Zemuria moss.
Man, I didn't think it'd be this pretty. Why is it glowing like that, though?
probably has a high concentration of Septim components. Let's gather some and hurry back to Zeiss.
Obtains the Miriam moss.
All right, we're all set.
We should deliver it to the priest now.
Yep, let's...
Wait.
Huh?
What? Penguins.
Careful.
Oh, that is a big boy. It is very big.
What the heck is that?
Looks like the boss of the lake.
Well, I guess we've got no choice but to fight.
Man, they're flashy.
This sounds blunt, but if they're coming at us, no mercy.
Can I get them all?
Right.
I can.
Mr. Ekans waiting for us.
What's wrong? You scared?
Nice. Self buff is up. Very good.
I won't let you!
Let's go.
Okay, Joshua needs to see me more than Zin.
Thank you!
My turn.
Okay, now we're gonna morale up.
Let's go!
Everyone, let's
Favorite
go.
regen is up. Sorry, that defense
I
up.
won't let you!
Thunder breath. Ooh. Steel bones.
Thanks. I'll change the tide of battle. Unleashing!
What's this thing weak to? Nothing, I suppose. Okay. He is the boss. I guess that makes sense.
I'll get you all. Let us begin. I won't let you!
Tuna missile?
Let's go.
Better fish at me.
I can take them all.
Rip guard. The zero cast. Perfect. Perfecto.
Let's go.
Battery.
This will heal you.
Thank you.
Okay, watch Joshua's cast goes off. I'm gonna do the break.
Have another. Faster.
Speed up, nice. Black thing.
Farewell. It flinched.
Full burst.
Here we go.
Yes.
Let's do this. It's
Overkill. Very nice.
Now it's my
That
turn.
is not very nice. Okay, taunt.
Come on, over here.
Let's go.
Okay, I'll try to keep Zin alive with Earth. Sync would be nice too. No, I'll keep using Earth Guard on him.
Let's go.
Okay, keep Joshua's CP up.
This will
Oh, the craft boost increases how much CP is gained. Okay, I see.
Thank you.
Never
Let's
some
go.
tank.
Perfect move.
Steal his buff. We are the Pengus. Oh no. Here they go.
Now it's my turn.
We summoned another one. Another wave. Alright, so... shit.
I'll finish you all off right here.
Can I get all of them? I can. Taunt!
What's wrong? You scared?
Okay, I'm just gonna fucking
Right here.
be a little proactive with this shit. There we go. Because his stagger is massive.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Here's something extra. It's my
It
turn.
just feels, yeah, Tita has a crit, so... And with them staggered, they're gonna take extra damage anyway. Oh, it still also has a crit. I might be able to clear them. I don't know about the big boss, but... Damn.
Got it to me.
Yes, 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 yes. Overkill. Joshua has another Black Fang, even. Nice.
You're mine.
There goes the boss.
Let's go.
Gotta clean up the chaff.
Farewell.
Farewell. Sayonara. And that's that. Easy as. Oh man, look at that XP.
I got it!
I'll make use of this.
Heartbreak, Evil Eye,
I just had an epiphany.
Jamming Ray,
The results of my training.
Distend. Resurgence X. Nice, nice. Very good.
Dang! That scared the crap out of me!
It was cute, but oh, so scary.
Phew. Looks like we managed to drive it away. But it might come back if we stick around here for too long.
Yeah, we better head back to the city quickly. We're supposed to take that moss to the church, right?
Yep, let's hurry.
Samuria moss. In the east, we call it spirit moss. That one looks good. Now let's go deliver it.
Yes. First, let's take it to Father Vixen.
Wait, what am I doing? I can fast travel.
Okay, here we go.
Alright. Elevator. No sub-events. Father Vixen, we got the Zemuria moss. Oh, really? You found it so quickly. I'm impressed. Will you be able to help make the medicine with this? Of course, my dear. I'll head to the back and prepare it. Just give me a few minutes. From the sacred septium, origin of all creations, the blue and gold are consecrated here. By the divine blessing of Adios, let purity and vitality unite as one. Alright, it is finished. Here, you can take this. Received Alve elixir. Oh, the color's so pretty. Do you drink it? Yes, it's an oral remedy. Instead of neutralizing the poison, it dramatically enhances the immune system to help with natural healing. I see, so it's similar to medical practices in the East. Yes, it's the same idea as the herbal medicine of Eastern countries. Now, hurry and deliver it to the patient. Right, we will. Thank you so much, Father Vixen.
Mr. Agate, please hold on tight.
Calm down. We don't want to drop the moss.
Yeah, move fast. Stay calm.
Let's go save Sword Guy. Was he on the third floor? Fifth floor. Fifth floor. Or is it the fourth? Fourth? Yes, fourth, okay. We're back, Doctor. How did it go? Father Vixen made the medicine for us. He did. He really is amazing. Hand it over, Alvi Elixir. I see. He gave us some medicine that boosts the immune system. It's definitely worth a try.
All right. I'll give him the medicine now.
Miriam carefully administered the medicine into Agate's mouth with a dropper.
Adios, please.
Oh god, he's hulking out.
Whoa! Hey, is he screaming in pain?
It's okay. This is probably how it's supposed to work.
What?
Yeah, looks like the stuff's kicking in. He's screaming because his body's fighting back, getting everything running again.
Yes, exactly.
Perfectly normal.
This means he's out of that dangerous coma the neurotoxin put him in.
Oh, okay.
But it looks so painful.
Well, I think he'll be like this for about a day. But don't worry. He should be as good as new once it's over.
And thus, Agate recovered from his critical condition. Since it was already late at night, the party decided to take turns caring for him.
That's strange. I swear there were spare towels here.
Hey, he is struggling. Come on, Agate.
Mr.
Pull
Agate?
through.
Oh no, he's sweating so much. I have to wipe it off. Mr. Agate, you're awake. I'll get you some water.
Misha.
Misha?
Huh?
Good. You were there. Your big bro's here with you. So don't worry. You don't have to be afraid anymore. So.
Mr. Agate?
Tita quickly checked Agate's condition. His breathing had become more stable, and he was now fast asleep.
Phew. Thank goodness. He called me Misha. I wonder who that is.
Who could that be? Look at his sprite. His sprite is massive compared to everybody else.
You didn't have to see me off, but thanks.
It's the least we can do since you helped us out.
Are you heading straight to the capital on the airliner, Zen?
Yeah, I've got some important business there I just can't miss. Otherwise, I'd stay here with you guys, digging into this kidnapping case. Sorry, kiddo.
No worries. You've been such a big help already. Thank you so much for everything.
That makes me feel better.
The airliner Cecilia, bound for the royal capital, is about to depart. All passengers, please start boarding.
Whoops. Guess it's time for me to go. Take care, kiddos. I hope our paths have a chance to cross again.
Yeah, same. Hey, Zin, how long will you be in Liberal?
Not sure, but I'll be here at least until the Queen's birthday festival.
Oh, then maybe we really will see each other again.
We'll be looking forward to that day.
Yeah, same here.
Ah, Zin. He stays for such a short time compared to everybody else.
All right.
I guess we have
Should we
Agate
head
as well.
straight to the guild now? They might have updates about the airship.
Yeah, I hope the Royal Army shared some info with us. Are you coming with us, Tita?
I was thinking about looking after Mr. Agate. He hasn't woken up yet, so I'm still a little worried.
Tita, for sure. You can leave your grandpa to us.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cause you so much trouble.
Oh, come on, silly. You know you don't have to worry about that.
It's always very comforting to have someone by your side, even if you're unconscious. Take good care of Agate for us, okay?
Yeah, I will.
Aw, seriously. She's so sweet, but a little too selfless. I mean, really. She doesn't have to be that nice to that gruff delinquent.
Now. I think you and Agate have a lot in common, you know.
Excuse you? What do you mean by that, huh? I'm nothing like that grouchy idiot.
Well, you both tend to charge in head first without thinking, and you're both way too kind for your own good. Agate's words are pretty harsh, but most of the time, he says them because he cares. And I think Tita knows that.
I guess I see your point. But, well, whatever.
Oops.
Let's just go to the guild and see what they've learned. We're gonna have all the info we need and brag about it when he's better.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, what will it be?
Aha! I can finally hand in the book quest. Waiting for this to come back. I was worried I missed it. Second floor, I think. I hope it's the second floor. Yes. Constance. Any new developments? You betcha. We brought the book. Can you check if it's the right one? The Irby Woodpecker. This is a pleasant surprise. This is the book. I can't believe it. That was too easy. To be honest, I thought it was a fool's errand for sure. I'm amazed you actually found it. Now I can be sure you're up to the rest of the task. Excuse me? The rest of the task? There's more? That researcher actually had a total of 3 books. Oh boy. Which of course means there are still 2 left. Did I not mention that part? Nope. This is the first I've heard of it. How odd. Well, no matter. You've come too far to turn back now, haven't you? It's important to see things through. Well, I'm not so sure. But then, I did have to rack my brain to read that weird code. Actually, we did something similar in Ruan, too. That you should be more than capable. There are no words involved in the next hint. What? Really? A picture is worth 1,000 words, as they say. Take a look at this. 4 circles and an X. I got nothing. I don't know what to say. Title of this book is Hertz's Adventure Volume 2. Okie dokie, Hertz's Adventure Volume 2. Got it. Volume 1 is still in the archives, so a lot of folks complain about not having the sequel. You'll just have to keep your eyes peeled and hope you find it. Another conundrum. It might have been easier if it was a bunch of words again. Well, beggars can't be choosers. Good luck. I'll be waiting right here as always. We'll be going now. I guess we should get this over with. Because I want that BP.
So these 4 circles are our only clue.
Wait, wasn't there something like that on the Plains Road?
Joshua dropped in the hint, the answer. Which is good, because I don't remember where the hell this is. Oh, I can't leave the city yet, can I? Oh well. The fast travel stuff's blanked out, which means I can't leave, right? Yep, okay. Story beat first.
Morning, Keelika!
Good morning.
Good morning, you two. Did Zin already leave?
Yes, he left for the capital on the airliner just a bit ago.
You should have seen him off too, Kilika. By the way, how do you know Zin?
From way back when. Moving on. Something feels off about this case.
Oh, alright.
Hey, don't dodge the question. Wait, did you say it feels off?
Are you saying that because you found something out about the airship?
No, I don't have any updates on that. I'm referring to the Royal Army. First, I tried to contact the Leyston Fortress headquarters, but they haven't responded yet. And then, all roadblocks in the region were lifted last night.
What? Why would they do that? Do they want to start another fight like what happened in the Sky Pirate case?
No, that doesn't make any sense. They should let us know if they caught the culprit themselves.
I'll have to check the newspapers,
this
I
feels
think.
suspicious.
The day has passed.
Incidentally, we haven't been able to contact the intelligence division at Leyston Fortress either. Maybe something happened within the Royal Army.
Something... Oh, wait! Are you talking about the photo Dorothy took?
Right. The photo of those black-clad men disguised as royal guards.
Did you summon me?
Speak of the devil, and she shall appear.
Oh, Dorothy!
Speak of the devil.
I just said that, Joshua.
Oh, this is so bad. Niall was there when I contacted the office. He got so mad at me when I told him I handed over the exposure quartz to the Royal Army. Isn't that so unfair?
Wait, they haven't given you the exposure quartz back yet?
Nope. Isn't it terrible? I even went all the way to Leyston Fortress to ask for it back.
Wow, you actually got a lot of guts.
It is my one and only talent. So because they said they wouldn't give it back, I took a photo of the fortress for the magazine instead. It turned out so pretty. The moonlight was shining on it and everything.
A pretty photo of a fortress? Yeah, sure.
I don't think you're allowed to take photos of military facilities without permission.
Oh, don't be such a stickler. Here, take a look. I just developed it.
Wow, really is a beautiful photo. So this is Leyston Fortress.
I gotta admit, Dorothy, your photography skills are really something. Huh?
Something wrong, Estelle?
Maybe it's just me, but isn't there something in the upper right corner?
What? Oh, you're right. There is.
It's faint, but there's definitely a small shadow.
Wow! Estelle, what an amazing catch! I didn't even notice, and I was the one who took it!
It was no big deal. It's just the silhouette, but doesn't that look like an army patrol ship?
No, it isn't. It's that airship.
That airship?
Are you saying it has the exact same shape as the one that kidnapped the professor?
Dun dun.
Yes.
The one that kidnapped the professor?
Dun dun.
Wait a second. Why is that airship near the Leyston Fortress? Isn't that place supposed to be the Royal Army headquarters?
Estelle, calm down. There are a lot of possibilities, but it's still too early to jump to conclusions. Maybe we should go to Leyston Fortress and ask them about it in person.
What?
I see. You're planning to provoke a reaction from them.
You think it's too risky?
No, I'll allow it. We almost lost a bracer over this. No matter what the reasons are, I will not let them underestimate us.
Yikes, Kilika. You look super intense right now. But you're right. Dorothy, can we have a copy of this photo?
Sure, no problem. You've already done so much for me.
Thanks. I owe you one.
Receive Dorothy's photo.
To get to Leyston Fortress, leave through the east gate and take the Ritter Roadway. Head north at the front and you'll
Okay,
reach the
now the
fortress
monster
gate.
can be slain.
Be careful out there.
Roger, Roger.
Unfortunately, we have no Zin, we have no Tita, we have no Agate. This fight could be kinda hectic.
Let's see.
Yeah, this one. Ritter Road monster.
Let's begin.
Alright, let's report the other one.
I see.
So 7
I
more.
hope you'll continue to impress.
And I always say this, but we will go for a little bit longer. We want this. This is where, maybe we can't do that one yet. Extra strength, so it's good. It might not let me go this way.
No, Estelle.
No, okay.
Still, I never thought Dorothy would find such an important clue.
Good fortune or devil's own luck. Whatever it is, she's definitely got it.
What if she's secretly absorbing all the luck from the people around her?
Now that's scary.
It is
This
fucking
one's
scary.
dangerous. Keep it together.
Oh boy, okay.
Found treasure.
This is either gonna go pretty easy or I'm about to get my shit kicked in. It's one of those fucking bosses, one of those dogs that the fucking mayor had. Let's try it.
I can take them all!
Got no CP. That's terrible. Okay, this has already gone bad.
Let's go.
I have to do this the old-fashioned way. Clock up EX? Oh, I didn't know we had that.
Sit.
Pray. Pray for me.
You're a lifesaver.
I won't let you.
I just realized the big dogs ignore the earth card. I forgot about that part.
Let's go.
Alright, okay.
I'll get you all.
This is terrible. Okay. This is already gone bad. Get that morale.
Time to strike! Payback time! My turn! I can take them all! Burn!
Ready? And it's over!
Okay, the stagger helped. Joshua is about to fucking die though. I may have to wait to do this fight. I think I might actually fucking die here.
I'm going all out. Perfect move.
Evil Eye has
I'll get you all.
Confuse. If I can proc a Confuse, that would be very helpful.
Don't move. Fine. Faster. Estelle, do it.
Again, has blight.
I can take them all!
Try it. That spell looks sick. Oh. That Doom guy's like, you're gonna love that shit. Uh-oh. Nice, confused. Okay.
I won't let you.
Joshua needs to be healed.
I won't let you.
STAT.
My turn!
Let's hear. Let's hear.
Here we go!
Thank you. I won't let you. I'll be your opponent.
Now, Evil Eye is probably the who replace Flicker a lot with Confuse built in.
Don't move. Fine.
Ah, he has multiple animations for it too.
Healing.
You're a lifesaver.
Oh, it still's got a lot of buffs and heal. Nice.
Now I'm mad!
So I'm gonna morale and then limit break, I think.
Time to strike! Let's go!
Because I want to steal these zero casts. Burst!
I'm on fire.
That's one down. Joshua gets heal. Dark Zone. That's terrible. I think that inflicts blind.
I'll get you all.
The ball? Nice. Oh, I can't see. Okay. Hold. Nah, there's no way. Okay. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna attack and then deliver.
Faster! Leave it to me.
Steal.
Farewell.
You're mine.
Okay, the stun is huge. That's perfect. Rage boost. There's the enrage. He's almost dead though, so it's not terrible. Him getting that heal off is terrible though.
I'll be your opponent. Let us begin.
I'm gonna focus these guys down. He has a revive? What? No. No way.
My turn. I can take them all.
You didn't. Okay, he needs to go down then. Shit. Okay. Joshua is fucking dying. The root debuff. Special eggnog. Always trust in the eggnog.
Tastes good.
This is not good.
I'll change the tide of battle.
I really need this confused to go off Evil Eye.
Don't move. Fine.
You're mine.
I better limit break. Oh, yeah, I need to limit break now.
I won't let you.
Okay, stun. Good. Confused, very good.
I'll be your opponent.
Estelle is in need of some healies. Bitter tomato sandwich, her favorite.
Close one.
Okay, he's not.
Let's go.
He's not doing anything. Just spam Evil Eye. Confuse will be our savior. Confuse and delay. Full burst.
Let's do this. It's over.
Very nice. That's not so nice. Oh, God. He almost went down. Okay, okay. This should kill the boss. I just don't want to lose our limit break. A lot of damage. To kill the boss, at least. Okay, no more revives. Death throws, that's the enrage, but they are confused. I hope.
I'll get you
I hope they stay confused. Try and inflict again.
There.
You're mine.
Stun. Miss, nice. Confuse, nice. Confuse, very nice. Stun.
Leave it to me.
Okay.
I'll get you all. Gotcha.
To try and stay on the offensive.
Let's keep it up.
Estelle gets a cast off, very nice. Okay, Estelle can heal herself now.
I can take them all.
Nice. We're back in the green. All right. This is not so terrible now. It's starting to turn terrible very fast. Joshua.
My turn.
God damn, man. Or eggnog.
There.
Tastes good. I won't let you. Ready at any time. Unleashing. I'll get you all. Let us begin. Fire!
You're mine.
The regular mobs are more annoying than the fucking boss.
Let's go.
Okay.
I can take them all.
Okay, though. Okay.
You're a lifesaver. Burn.
Let's go.
Burst. Black Fang.
Faster. Leave it to me. This is the end. Farewell. Here, Estelle.
Your cast. Okay, that's another dog dead. Alright. Now we're safe.
I'll be your opponent.
God damn, man.
Let us begin.
So it's very strong. Fire cast, so it should be pretty much done.
Let's go.
I think maybe this dog can attack us. Here comes the crit.
Yeah, that's good.
Alright. Man. That was a hell of a fight.
This guy means
Let's get the
business.
fuck out of here.
I'm game.
Drop it a strength.
Treasure found.
Treasure chests. Materials. Sanctine gates. Okay, I'll get the fast travel for this.
All right, treasure time.
Oh, with any treasures. Okay, we got the fast travel. There's an item here, it looks like. This might be where that NPC Antonio spawns, but I don't remember. This looks like I can check now, so maybe I can. There's an item up on the gate anyway.
Want something to eat? Which one should I pick?
I got it.
Nice. Meatloaf's hot pot. Okay.
Take
Very
this.
nice.
Will you be resting?
Heal up.
This feels great. Oh, take care.
Ah, and I can limit break as well. Okay. Item over here. Yes. 7 masks. Free money. Okay, I think Antonio spawns at the top. If it's not now, it'll be later, I think. I think it's here. No, it doesn't look like he spawned yet. Oh well. Oh, there's another item on the other side. There we go. Okay. There's just money that spawns here. I think it's super interesting. Actually, the quest. What time is it? 6. Okay. Mantis. Soldat Army Road.
It's starting to feel different. So we're in army territory now.
Let's see what shows up. Stay on guard.
This guy means business.
No Rhino Sliders.
Game.
Not right now. Water Sepith, okay. Treasure.
This chest looks good.
Serum powder. Another res.
All right, treasure time.
Public defense. Okay, I'm gonna use my droplets. Okay. Status up. Oh, they're just big. Okay, I see. Joshua. Alright. Definitely save. I think this is the end of this ice area. Leyston Fortress. What is it?
Oh, wow. This place is massive.
This would be the last.
It's like 3 times bigger than Gate, don't you think?
Yeah, probably. I heard it even withstood attacks and served as a base for the counterattack during the war.
That makes sense. No, wait. We're not here to appreciate it. Let's go to the entrance and drag out whoever's in charge. What?
Nothing. I was just thinking about how fearless you are. Like father, like daughter, I guess.
Excuse you. I'm actually pretty nervous right now, but I can't imagine anyone in there is scarier than General Morgan.
That's true. Haven't heard that name in a while. I wonder if he's still at Gate.
An item. Seventh mass, which is money.
Huh. No one's here.
That's strange. I thought guards stood around places like this.
Who goes there?
Huh? Where'd that voice come from?
Maybe there's a speaker somewhere.
This is the Liberal Royal Army's main headquarters. Civilians may not wander around here. I'm afraid I must ask you to turn back.
Polite but firm, huh?
Yeah, we must be on high alert.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Sorry, but we're not ordinary civilians. We're members of the Bracer Guild.
We're here regarding the attack on the Central Factory. Could you arrange for us to meet with someone in charge?
The Bracer Guild? You two are bracers?
What? Don't believe us? Take a look at this emblem then. Come on, you can see this, can't you?
Confirmed. It appears to be real. Unfortunately, the person in charge is currently away. Could you come back another day?
What? They're out? Bummer.
In that case, could you call someone from the intelligence division? Anyone will do. We have something we'd like to pass on to Colonel Richard or Captain Amalthea.
Very well. Wait right there.
Phew. Finally got them to budge.
Yeah, looks like the security is tighter than we thought.
Whoa!
Someone's here.
Apologies for the wait.
Major Sid.
I'm Major Sid, the garrison commander here at Leyston Fortress.
I'm Estelle Bright, from the Bracer Guild.
And I'm Joshua Bright, also from the guild.
Right.
Huh? What's wrong?
Apologies, it's nothing. More importantly, you said you wanted to talk about the Central Factory attack, correct? I'm sorry to inform you that all of the Intelligence Division personnel are also currently out. If you have a message, I can take it.
Now what do we do? All right, time to shake things up a little.
This was the airship, right?
Woe is
So it was
us.
in the
What
photo.
a shame. We got a lead on the airship.
What did you say?
Hey, Mr. Major. You seem caught off guard.
No, it's just that we've been searching all over for it too. So, what is the lead you found?
Please, take a look at this.
Photo. Hand it over Dorothy's photo.
This is Leiston Fortress. Where did you get this photo?
Oh my. Let's not get so serious. Just look at the photo. Top right.
The top right. This is...
Judging by the silhouette, this isn't the patrol ship you use, is it?
And guess what? This looks exactly like the airship that took the professor.
I see. This is a grave situation.
Yeah, it doesn't look good for them, does it?
Thank you for sharing this. I'll report it to the Intelligence Division as soon as possible.
Huh? Hey, wait a sec. That's it?
What do you mean?
Come on. This is weird, right? Why would that airship be flying around a military base?
I'm embarrassed to say that it must have been our failure. We've been so focused on patrolling near the border that we've neglected to keep a proper watch on our own base. If they headed north across the lake, the Empire could be behind this.
Okay.
Huh. May I ask you one more question? Where exactly did the Intelligence Division members go?
That is classified military information. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Hey, Joshua. He's super suspicious, isn't he?
Yeah, but we can't push any further without solid evidence.
I think their gate's broken.
Huh?
I wonder what happened.
What? Why did it stop halfway? What? Everything shut down again?
Joshua, did you hear that?
Yeah, looks like we were right.
Well, that's embarrassing. The gate mechanism hasn't been working properly for the past few days.
I see. That must be tough for you.
If it's that bad, why not ask someone from the
What a
central
shame.
factory to fix it? I bet someone like Professor Russell could have it up and running in no time.
Yes, I'll consider that. Stand guard here until the mechanism is repaired. Do not allow any civilians near the fortress.
Yes, sir. Understood.
This is how things are now. You two should go about your business. Don't worry, I'll be sure to pass the photo to the Intelligence Division. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Well.
I still can't believe it. That was what I think it was, right?
Yeah, it was probably the same kind of shutdown we saw before.
As a reminder, the Black Orbit is also missing. The Black Orbit can fuck with orbital energies, like an EMP.
Which means Professor Russell might be held in that fortress too.
Shh, Estelle, don't talk about that here.
Okay.
For now, let's go back to Zeiss and talk to Kilika about all this. Maybe we should have Mr. Murdoch come to the guild too.
I can't believe Professor Russell's being held at Leiston Fortress. Are you sure?
Considering Ms. Dorothy's photo and the orbital shutdown at the front gate, it's a reasonable conclusion.
But the Central Factory's worked closely with the Royal Army for years. It's all hard to believe.
The Royal Army isn't a monolith. There are divisions within it. Perhaps the culprits disguised as Royal Guards have something to do with it.
Wait, does that mean...
The Royal Guard is being framed?
the Royal Guards are being framed?
Yeah, that's probably the case. There might be some kind of conspiracy taking shape within the army.
How is this possible? And why'd the professor get caught up in this conspiracy?
So you've dug up some leads on the rats behind this, huh?
Look who's back.
Oh, Agate?
It's great to see you awake.
Yeah, just woke up a bit ago. Waking up in some unfamiliar place scared the hell out of me.
Seriously, we were all worried about you, you know?
Are you sure you should be working?
Yeah. I feel stiff as hell after sleeping so long. All I want to do is move my body.
But, Mr. Agate, you shouldn't push yourself too hard. Dr. Miriam said you should rest now since the poison has just been removed.
I told ya, I'm fine. Don't make me say it again.
Or he's gonna slap you again.
I know what I can handle.
Oh.
Okay, fine. I won't overdo it until I'm back to normal. There. Satisfied?
Yes.
This is why I hate brats.
Guess even you can't win against Tita, huh?
She stayed by your side taking care of you this whole time, so in a way, you owe her your life.
Ugh, quit yapping, will ya? Anyway, a lot of stuff's happened while I was out, yeah? Let's hear it.
Yep. Okay.
I always... They explain that Professor Russell is probably being held at Leyston Fortress.
Why did they take Grandpa to a place like that?
And to think those men dressed in black were connected to the military. It's great to finally figure out their identities. Time to settle the score once and for all.
What do you mean, settle the score?
We're breaking into Leyston Fortress. We'll save that old man and teach those losers a lesson they won't forget.
Ah, gotcha. That's probably the quickest way.
Hold on. Things aren't that simple.
Huh?
The Bracer Guild operates under the principle of not interfering with military issues. Guild Protocol Article 3, non-interference with national authority. Bracers are prohibited from arresting or investigating against sovereign states or their public institutions. In other words, as long as the army doesn't admit that they're involved, we have no right to act against them.
I forgot about that.
What? That's ridiculous! A crime's taking place right in front of us, and you're saying that we can't do anything about it?
However, there is a loophole. Guild Protocol Article 2, duty to protect civilians. A bracer is obligated to protect the lives and rights of civilians when threatened. Do you understand what this means?
I see. The professor isn't an official or part of the military. He's a civilian who deserves protection.
Then...
It all comes down to you, Mr. Murdoch. Do you wish for Professor Russell to be rescued, even if it could lead to standing against the Royal Army?
That's a no-brainer. Professor Russell is important not only to the Central Factory, but to the entire kingdom of Libra. Bracers, please rescue him.
Mr. Murdoch, thank you so much.
Don't thank me. The professor is also my mentor.
Now, we have the justification we need. Senior Bracer Agate, Junior Bracers Estelle and Joshua. I request that you rescue Professor Russell, who is presumed to be held inside Leyston Fortress. Though unofficial, this is a formal request from the Bracer Guild.
Now we're talking.
Understood.
Good. Let's do this. Now we've got to figure out how to sneak in. That damn Leyston Fortress is famous for being a bitch to break into.
That's true. Estelle and I saw their incredibly tight security. It'd be great if we could find some kind of route to slip through.
I'm afraid not. Their defenses are nearly flawless. Their orbal sensors cover the entire area, including the lake. So approaching from there is also impossible.
Figured as much.
Looks like the straightforward approach is off the table.
Oh, that reminds me, Mr. Murdoch.
Estelle has come up with an idea.
That orange airship you have goes to Leyston Fortress quite often, right?
Ah, you mean the factory ship Leibniz? Yeah, we use that airship for supply deliveries and equipment checks, but...
Maybe we can hitch a ride and sneak in that way?
Nah, every crew member on the airship gets thoroughly checked every time.
So what I'm gonna do, after this conversation, I'm gonna gear up the party, and that will be where I call it, because I think this next part can take a little bit.
Slipping away unnoticed would be next to impossible.
So stowing away in the cargo is out of the damn question too, huh?
As this is the finale of the chapter.
Yeah. Each and every container is scanned with a life form detector. It's one of Professor Russell's inventions. Not even a rat could slip by.
So that's a no-go too. Hmm? What's the matter?
Estelle, don't you remember? The device Grandpa was creating when you first met him.
When we first met him. Oh!
You're talking about that new orbment we helped examine, right?
Yeah, that. That device creates a field of orbal energy that interferes with the lifeform detector scans. We already tested it and it works. So it'll be okay.
What? You sure?
Oh, that professor. Secretly inventing the most random things. Do you know where that device is?
I'm pretty sure it's somewhere in Grandpa's lab.
Then you guys can get it and bring it here. In the meantime, I will prepare detailed data on Leyston Fortress.
Got it. We're counting on you.
Mr. Murdoch, could you prepare the factory ship for them?
Of course. I'll go talk to Gustav. Come to the landing port when you're ready.
It increased by 3. Nice, nice. Hand in.
I see. Good work.
I have one off. There is a side mission. Okay, I'll get that out of the way then right now.
Let's get to work.
A high-level threat. Careful!
Watch for ranged attacks.
Then I'll gear them up and then call it. Because the next part is like with the Kappa family's dungeon, which could take a little bit, so. And it's getting late, so. Well, it's already late. Luckily, this is marked. On a parchment parcel. Hertz's Adventure Volume 2 is inside.
Found it. So the clue was about the stone pillar.
Stone pillar.
That was satisfying.
Run this back.
Let's get moving.
Hand this in. Hopefully get a BP. I'm getting my my prize. Constance. Oh? Did you find the book? We sure did. Please check it's the right one. Return Hertz's Adventure Volume 2. Yep, this is the one. Now there's only one book remaining. We're on the final stretch. Okay, bring it on. Lay it on me. No need to rush, I'll tell you all about it. The last book I want you to find is called 31 Cypress Trees. Here's the borrower's card. There's a strange riddle written on it again. Atop the hill are 31 cypress trees. 3 hares race and run off. Nimbly, and I awaken with a throb. Echoes of pain like a nebulous wave. The tremor bleeds through my shell of armor. Under pale trees I still breathe. Ruthless love I kneel, guarding she who never forgives. Yeah, look at those weird letters that are strangely capitalized. F-N-B-E-A-N Bean R-B-R-U-I-E. I don't think that spells anything. More bizarre poetry, huh? It's starting to kind of make sense, though. So is it another riddle? Looks that way. It should be easy for you now. The steps you need to take will be the same as those before. Do your best to complete them. Wish us luck. We'll be back soon.
One and done.
Not bad.
I don't know if this actually gives us the answer, though.
If you look at this text from another side...
Oh, I see it now. The location.
Does it just tell me where it is? Oh, it's at the base, which of course you can't get in, so... But it looks like that'll be a side quest I can complete while doing this next part next time, which I think I'm going to stream tomorrow night. Because I have the time. I should. Yeah. Let's do this. You're up. And call it. Okay, time to look for the device. Where should we start? I think it's in the corner of the lab or the study on the second floor. Grandpa always leaves his inventions lying around. Sounds like one eccentric old guy. Whatever, we gotta find that device. If it's not in here, it'll be upstairs, she says. Upstairs? Upstairs. Found it. That's definitely the orbit we helped test out. How does it look? Is it usable? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks good. If we do it right, the lifeform detector will completely ignore us. Detection jammer. Alright, time to head back to the guild. Kilika should have the data on the fortress by now.
Gotta say, I'm impressed your old man made a sensor impeder. Seems like a niche invention.
Grandpa makes all sorts of things for fun. That includes research on inventions to counter other inventions.
What? Why? Man, I don't think I'll ever understand how geniuses think.
Maybe that's what makes them geniuses.
Ah, that's right. I was going to check the
What to pick? What to pick?
newspapers.
Hurry up and
I knew
pick.
one. This would be perfect to unknown.
Come again.
Because I think the others... I don't think I can really gear them up too much more. I have all their best weapons. And as a rule, you shouldn't unlock the last slot for NPCs, like the guest characters, because they get automatically unlocked as you go along. Okay. And let's read this. What has changed in the world building? Oh, I can actually hand this in, I think. Prize?
Kilika, we found the device.
And I have all the data. By the way, everything I'm about to show you must be kept a secret. Got it?
Ooh. You see Lyston Fortress map.
You been stashing this little gem the whole time?
This is a map of Leyston Fortress.
Wow. The fortress is so big. So Grandpa's somewhere in there?
Wait a sec. I thought stuff like this was classified military info. How does the guild have it?
Fight fire with fire, as they say. We got this through special means. Remember, the Bracer Guild must do things like these sometimes.
Right.
You must understand how delicate this situation is. Liberal's Royal Army and the Guild have a stronger alliance than most nations. We can't damage that trust. So keep fights against soldiers to a minimum, especially you, Agate. Is that clear?
Fine. But if those black-clad idiots show up, I'm not holding back. Military or not, they're criminals.
Do as you wish, just don't kill them. Estelle, Joshua, normally I wouldn't let junior bracers handle a case this serious.
What? No way. You can't be serious.
We can't just walk away now. Please, let us go with him.
I knew you'd say that, so I won't stop you. Know that you are both under the supervision of the Zeiss Bracer Guild. I will take full responsibility for whatever happens in the fortress, so focus and don't worry.
Kilika.
Thank you. We'll do our best. We're sorry for the trouble.
And, Tita, I don't usually ask non-bracers this, but I'm assuming you haven't changed your mind, have you?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Huh? Wait, what do you mean, change your mind?
Wait, don't tell me.
I'm probably the only one here who can activate this device, so I'm going with you.
What?
Well, the orbment did look pretty complicated, but still.
I'm sorry. I promise I won't hold you back, so...
Bullshit.
Here comes the slap. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, Pipsqueak, what kind of half-baked idea is this? No way in hell we're taking a kid on a mission this dangerous.
But I'm the only one who can activate the device.
Then screw the plan. We'll figure something else out.
Hey, Bonehead. Can't you try to be less of a jerk? What the hell's your problem?
What?
You heard Tita. She's prepared to face danger. And you know she'd be a huge help when we sneak into the fortress, which means we'll have a better shot at saving the professor, right? So why are you so dead set against it?
You happy-go-lucky. Are you telling me it's better to throw a civilian, a kid, into danger?
We'll just have to protect her. That's what bracers do.
Acting like you know it all, rookie?
I don't think experience is the issue here. Racers aren't the only ones who want to protect the people they care about. Isn't it our job to support them, too?
Estelle, Joshua, Mr. Agate, I'm so sorry for causing trouble. But Grandpa means the world to me, and I want him to come back safely. So, I'm willing to do whatever I can to save him. Also, just like how you saved me, I want to help you, Estelle, Joshua, and everyone else. I promise I won't overdo it. I'll listen and do everything you say. So please, let me come with you.
Tita.
You've really thought this through.
That's not even the point. I'm telling you to stay behind because you'll slow us down. Even if you might be useful.
Oh.
Unfortunately, this looks like our only way of sneaking in. I don't want to do this. I really don't, but fine. You can come with us this time.
Thank you, Mr. Agate.
Don't thank me. But if you hold us back, we'll ditch you on the spot. So be prepared.
Let's leave her ass in the military fortress.
For real, man. Why do you always have to be so mean? Just say, yes, she can come. It's easy.
Now, no need to get mad, Estelle. Agate's just saying all that to cover up how embarrassed he is.
Shut the hell up, brats.
I'm glad you've reached an agreement. The factory ship should be ready by now. Head to the landing port when you're all set.
Yep, will do.
See you, Kilika. Keep the military off our backs, will you?
Of course. I'll come up with a story if they start asking questions. May Adios watch over you. Stay safe out there.
Looks like everyone's here.
Give me my prize.
Time to kick off the mission.
Hey, Pipsqueak.
I see.
If you're really coming with us, you better be damn sure
your rank
you're
went
ready.
up. Here's your reward. Nice work.
Yes. Very nice. The Grail Locket and the Gladiator Belt are last. The Grail Locket's gonna be fucking amazing.
I hope you'll continue to impress.
And for now, let's put this armament on Joshua, because I don't want him to be attacked. What's this one? Back to having Chaos Brand. Perfect. And our last little bit. Issue 7. You know what? Actually, no. This will make a good thing to go over tomorrow. This is a nice run back on what we went through. So, I'll just save there. And end the game. Alrighty. That is an excellent place to stop. Tomorrow I'm going to try and start closer to 9 p.m. It's at 10:30. So I'd like to start a little bit earlier now. And end a little bit earlier now. Just to be a little more consistent. And with the new year, I'll go back to streaming roughly 2 to 3 times a week again. Not cramming in streams like I was at the end of last year. So, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for popping in. Gonna watch some trails. We'll continue tomorrow and finish off Zeiss and rescue Professor Russell. So, as always, Wanderers, take care and farewell.